HeyMax and the USA, the complete strategic analysis. This is an independent analysis of whether HeyMax, the Singapore rewards platform this series has examined across 11 volumes, should enter the United States. Researched in August 2026 from public sources, including the audited filings of the American loyalty industry itself. Nobody paid for it. Nobody previewed it. Nothing in it is financial advice. Every market volume in this series has opened with a question about vacancy. Is there room in this market for what HeyMax does? Singapore's answer was yes, and HeyMax filled it. Korea's answer was no, because the pool of money that funds rewards had been legislated away. Japan's answer was a narrow yes, through a treaty door. The United States forces the question to invert. Because America is not a market where HeyMax's category might fit. America is the market that invented HeyMax's category, industrialized it, and exported it. The scale deserves numbers up front. Delta Airlines' loyalty program received $8.2 billion from American Express last year, one airline's one-bank relationship, worth roughly 400 times HeyMax's entire annual revenue. United's program showed a 34% profit margin on $5 billion of miles sales. The transferable points product HeyMax pioneered in Singapore is, in America, a free feature attached to at least 4 major bank cards. The miles-on shopping model is run by the airlines themselves, through portals covering 1,000 stores each. And the specific niche HeyMax occupies at home, a transferable airline currency requiring no credit card at all, was claimed in April 2025 by a venture-backed American startup called Rove, which markets itself, with no apparent awareness of Singapore, as the first universal airline mile. So this volume does something no prior market study has done. It walks a market where every layer is occupied. It prices the occupation. And it asks what remains. The answer is not quite nothing. There is a wholesale angle built on the one asset American currencies lack and a regulatory storm gathering over the entire American rewards pool. But this series does not bury verdicts. HeyMax should not enter the United States. Now, or on any horizon this analysis can see. The interesting work is understanding precisely why, because the reasons are a mirror in which HeyMax's own future in Asia becomes easier to read. Same ground rules as every volume, sources for every claim, labels on every estimate, absences treated as data. 20 chapters. The machine, the toll, the record, the wall, the mirror, and a verdict with falsifiers. Let's begin. Chapter 1, The Birthplace. Every loyalty mechanism this series has analyzed across 11 volumes, the transferable point, the shopping portal, the co-brand credit card, the paid membership, the wholesale miles sale, was invented in the United States. And most of them were invented by one program. This chapter establishes the scale and the maturity of the American machine, because every judgment in this volume rests on one understanding. HeyMax would not be entering a market. It would be entering a finished industry. Start with the founding artifact. American Airlines launched AAdvantage in May of 1981, the first modern frequent flyer program. Within a decade, every structural element of the industry HeyMax now inhabits existed in American form. Partner earn, hotels and rental cars joined in the 80s. The co-brand credit card, Citibank's AAdvantage card, 1987, arguably the most consequential product in loyalty history. Miles sold to third parties as a revenue line. And the realization, which took Wall Street another 2 decades to price properly, that the loyalty program attached to an airline could be worth more than the airline itself. Now the modern numbers, from the filings this series audited in its product volume. They define what the word mature actually means. Delta's relationship with American Express delivered $8.2 billion of remuneration in 2025. Delta's own guidance points to $10 billion. The program carries a $9.3 billion deferred revenue liability and fulfills roughly 35 million award tickets a year. 35 million. That is more award tickets in 1 year, from one airline, than most Asian programs have members. United's Mileage Plus, in the disclosure it filed while mortgaging the program during the pandemic, showed cash sales of $5.3 billion in 2019 at a 34% EBITDA margin. And note what that disclosure existed for. United could borrow against the program. It pledged Mileage Plus as collateral for billions in debt. These are not marketing schemes. They are securitizable cash machines that happen to have airlines attached. Americans advantage banks over $6 billion a year from its co-brand partners, with CD taking sole issuership from 2026 in a deal reported as the largest co-brand contract ever signed. Aggregate the industry, and American airline programs alone gross north of $20 billion a year selling miles, mostly to banks, before a single passenger buys a ticket. To feel the machine's maturity rather than just count it, follow 1 mile through the system. A Chicago household buys groceries on a co-brand card. The merchant pays the interchange toll. The bank uses a slice of that toll to buy a mile from the airline at a wholesale price negotiated in a contract the size of a phone book, guaranteed in the billions per year. The airline books most of that payment as deferred revenue against a future seat and recognizes a marketing slice immediately, pure margin. The household accumulates. Eventually they redeem, and the airline fulfills the award at a booked value of roughly 2/3 of a paid fare, on a seat its revenue management system decided it could spare. Every step of that chain is optimized, audited, hedged, and disclosed to bondholders. Delta discloses the size of its award ticket flow. United disclosed its earn-burn ratio to the decimal. American discloses its co-brand cash to the million. Now compare the same chain in Singapore or Tokyo, where this series had to derive wholesale prices from leaked decks and community arithmetic because nobody publishes anything. The American machine is not just bigger. It is transparent to its own capital markets because it long ago stopped being a marketing department and became a division with a chief financial officer. That is what HeyMax would be walking into. Not a market that does loyalty, but an economy that has financialized it. 3 structural observations complete the picture. Each one is a boundary condition for everything that follows in this volume. First, the American mile is bank-funded to a degree no Asian market approaches. The overwhelming majority of program revenue is banks buying miles to award on credit cards, which means the American mile's true underwriter is interchange, the 2% plus toll on card, spending that the next chapter prices. The airlines are, functionally, sellers of a rewards currency to the financial system. Recognize the shape. This is the exact wholesale relationship HeyMax pioneered at startup scale with Chocolate Finance in Singapore, selling miles to a fintech that awards them to customers. America runs the same trade at a scale 4 orders of magnitude larger. And it has run it for 40 years. Second, the programs are the airline's profit centers, which makes them sophisticated counterparties and ruthless ones. United's 34% margin on miles sales is the context for every partnership conversation any foreign platform could ever open. These programs do not need feeders. They do not court small partners. They price access at rates set by banks bidding billions against each other for exclusivity. The Japan volume documented JAL opening its program to foreign feeder currencies as a strategic novelty, a program learning to sell. The American majors finished that lesson decades ago, and their prices reflect it. Chapter 12 will show those prices sit above what HeyMax can afford to pay, permanently. Third, the maturity extends all the way down to the customer. The American points consumer is the most catered to on Earth, served by a professional media industry that Chapter 16 profiles, armed with valuation tables that update monthly. Holding multiple rewards cards per household as the national norm, there is no behavior for a foreign entrant to teach here. And unlike Japan, no structural pain to relieve. Japan's incumbents chose volatility as their weakness, the campaign conditions, the route decay, the instability HeyMax's stable rail attacks. America's incumbents chose complexity, the annual fee ladders, the rotating categories, the transfer bonus roulette. And an entire domestic industry of tools and media, already monetizes exactly that complexity, leaving nothing for an outsider to fix. The chapter's conclusion frames the whole volume. In every prior market, this series could ask what the incumbents left undone. In America, the incumbents are the inventors. The machine runs on $20 billion of annual program revenue, riding the world's largest interchange pool, serving the world's most sophisticated points consumers, monetized at every layer by domestic capital. The entrant's usual questions dissolve on contact with all this. The productive questions are different ones. What funds the machine? Who occupies each layer? What might Washington do to the funding? And what are the machine's masters doing, right now, in HeyMax's home region? The money first. Chapter 2, The Pool. This series has a ritual. Every market gets an interchange chapter, and the interchange chapter decides whether card-funded rewards can exist at all. The American version writes itself in superlatives. The United States runs the largest, richest, least regulated consumer credit card interchange pool on Earth. It is the single reason every number in Chapter 1 exists. And it is, Chapter 8 subject, the pool that Washington has finally surrounded. This chapter prices it at rest. The structure first. American interchange is split by a regulatory line drawn in 2010. The Durbin Amendment capped debit card interchange for large banks, roughly 21 cents plus a few basis points per transaction, and it left credit interchange completely untouched. Credit interchange is set by the networks, uncapped by any statute, and on premium rewards cards, it runs from roughly 2% to beyond 2.5% of every transaction. Blend the system, and American merchants pay on the order of $100 billion a year in card acceptance costs. That is the number the merchant lobbies quote in every congressional hearing, and the rewards card tier is its richest seam. That uncapped credit tier is the engine of everything this volume describes. Walk the loop. A household puts spending on a premium card. The merchant pays 2+%. The issuer recycles a large share of that toll into rewards, the miles purchases from airlines in Chapter 1, the points liabilities of Chapter 3, the 100,000-point welcome bonuses that American card marketing runs on. The rewards pull more spending onto the card. And the loop compounds at national scale, because American households' card spending runs to trillions of dollars annually. Here is the historical detail that explains the loop's ferocity. When Durbin capped debit in 2010, banks shifted their economics into the uncapped credit tier. Debit rewards died within a year, vanished completely, an extinction event this series will cite again in Chapter 8. And the premium credit card culture the rest of the world envies was supercharged by exactly that migration. The American system did not choose generosity. It was herded into it by a half-finished regulation. One number makes the pool's consumer surface vivid: the welcome bonus. American premium cards routinely pay new customers $60,000, $80,000, sometimes $150,000 points for signing up and meeting a spending minimum. Bonuses the community values at over $1,000 each, offered not once but continuously by multiple issuers to the same rotating population of applicants. An entire optimization strategy, the community calls its practitioners churners, exists purely to harvest these bonuses in sequence, and the banks tolerate calibrated levels of it as a cost of the acquisition war. Nothing remotely like this exists in HeyMax's markets. Singapore's card sign-up bonuses run 1/10 the size. Japan's point-site card bounties, which that volume treated as remarkably rich, are perhaps 1/5. The American pool is deep enough that its overflow, the marketing budget alone, exceeds the entire rewards economics of most other countries. When this volume says an entrant cannot compete with the subsidy, this is what the subsidy looks like at street level. The incumbents pay their customers more to try a card than HeyMax's model can pay a member for a year of loyalty. Now compare the pools this series has priced, because the comparison sets the stakes. Korea, interchange legislated down to fractions of a percent, rewards economically impossible. The volume said no. Australia, capped and the rewards market gutted. Japan, uncapped, undisclosed, roughly 3%, rich, but flowing through a card's culture a fraction of America's size. Singapore, uncapped, 1.5 to 2%, the pool that birthed HeyMax. The United States, uncapped at comparable rates, on a card spending base an order of magnitude beyond all of them combined. If pool size determined opportunity, this volume would end in an ecstatic yes. Pool size does not determine opportunity, and the American pool's very richness is why. 3 consequences. Each one closes a door that a smaller pool leaves open. First, the pool is fully claimed. $100 billion toll sustains a rewards industry whose every layer, issuer programs, airline currencies, portal networks, card-linked offers, is operated by incumbents at national scale, with decades of contracts. In Singapore, the pool leaked value a startup could catch. Cards whose rewards members failed to optimize. Merchant budgets with no miles-shaped outlet. The American pool's leaks have all been productized, most of them twice. There is an entire venture category for every inefficiency: card-choosing apps, award search engines, portal rate trackers. Chapter 7 walks them. Second, the pool funds the consumer's alternatives to anything an entrant could offer. The baseline American rewards proposition, 2% cashback, no annual fee, available from multiple issuers, is itself funded by interchange at levels Singapore's baseline never reached. Every additional layer stacks on top of that baseline. Free transferable points. Welcome bonuses worth $1,000. Airport lounges. An entrance proposition must clear a floor that is, by global standards, already the ceiling. The stacking argument that works in Singapore, HeyMax on top of your card, collides in America with bank portals, airline portals, and cashback platforms already occupying every position in the stack. Third, and this is the strategic point the volume keeps returning to, the pool's size is what draws Washington's siege. A toll this large, paid by every merchant in the economy, visibly funding first-class redemptions for the affluent, is a permanent political target. The Durban precedent proved that caps kill rewards tiers outright. The Credit Card Competition Act, Chapter 8, is the credit side sequel, reintroduced in January 2026 with presidential sympathy behind it. Hold the combination in your head. The American pool is the biggest in the world, and the only one under active legislative assault by both parties' populists at once. For an entrant, that combination is exactly as bad as it sounds. The best case is entering a market whose subsidy you cannot match. The worst case is entering just as the subsidy dies. Before leaving the pool, one comparative observation that will matter in the verdict. Notice what the American pool does to the meaning of the word rewards. In Singapore, a 4 miles per dollar card is an Optimiser's achievement, sought, capped, guarded by exclusion lists. In America, the equivalent yield is the resting state of the premium tier, available to anyone with a decent credit score and the willingness to pay an annual fee that the welcome bonus refunds several times over. The pool is so deep that generosity has lost its signaling power. Every card is generous, so no card is remarkable, so the competition migrates to ever more baroque dimensions: lounge networks, credits for streaming services, status matches, culinary programs. The market has ascended past rewards into amenities. That escalation is unreachable for a commission-funded entrant, not because any single amenity is hard, but because the whole ladder is priced in interchange. The entrant does not collect. When the verdict chapter says America is a completed market, this is the texture of completion. A market that finished competing on value years ago and now competes on theater, funded by a toll the entrant has no way to charge. The pool priced, vast, claimed, besieged. The next 5 chapters walk the claimants, layer by layer, beginning with the products that make HeyMax's core proposition a free feature of American banking. Chapter 3, the Bank Currencies. The product HeyMax built its company on: one earned currency, transferable one-to-one into a roster of airline and hotel programs, is, in the United States, a standard feature of retail banking. This chapter walks the 4 incumbent bank currencies and the 5th currency that outvalues them all. Together, they define the ceiling any entrant must price against. Chase Ultimate Rewards is the reference case. Earned across a card family that runs from the fee-free Freedom tier to the $450 Sapphire Reserve. The points transfer one-to-one, free, to roughly 14 airline and hotel partners. United, Hyatt, Flying Blue, Virgin Atlantic. Transfers process in minutes. The community values the currency at roughly 2 cents a point. American Express membership rewards runs the same shape at larger scale. A 20-plus partner roster, including the ANA exclusivity, this series' Japan volume documented. This is the program whose own annual filing let this series derive its internal economics. A $16.5 billion points liability and an internal cost of 0.68 cents per point. Capital One's miles transfer to 18-plus partners. CD Thank You runs a similar roster. 4 national bank currencies, each transferable, each free to transfer, each attached to cards American households already carry for other reasons. Now price what that means against HeyMax's home proposition. In Singapore, HeyMax's 21-partner roster is differentiated infrastructure. The bank's own rosters are shorter, ratio-encumbered, and fee-laden. No Singapore bank matches the breadth. In America, equivalent breadth is table stakes across 4 issuers. The ratios are uniformly 1-to-1. The transfers are free. And the earn rates? Through category multipliers and welcome bonuses funded by Chapter 2's pool, reach levels Singapore's 4 miles per dollar culture would find familiar. Transplant HeyMax's core product to America, and it would be the market's 5th best version of itself before its first user signed up. Watch how an American household actually uses this machinery, because the workflow is the moat. A typical Optimiser couple holds a Sapphire card for dining and travel, a Freedom card for rotating categories, an Amex for groceries, maybe a Capital One product for the flat rate. Their points pool automatically into 1 or 2 transferable balances. When they want to fly to Tokyo, they open an award search tool, find space on a partner, and move exactly the points needed, free, instantly, 1-to-1, into the airline program, booking within the hour. No conversion spreads, no monthly windows, no intermediate app. The entire loop runs on products they acquired for the welcome bonuses and keep for the category multipliers. Now ask what a 5th-party currency adds to that loop. Another balance to manage, another transfer hop, a shorter roster, weaker earn because no interchange subsidizes it. The honest answer is nothing, and that nothing is not because the entrant's product is bad. It is because the incumbent loop is complete. In Singapore, HeyMax inserted itself into an incomplete loop. Bank points that moved badly, rosters that stopped short, tools that did not exist. America's loop closed years ago, and its closure is maintained by the largest marketing budgets in consumer finance. Then there is the 5th currency, and it matters more to this volume than the 4 giants combined. Bilt Rewards built its wedge on the one spending category the banks ignored: rent. Tenants earn transferable points on their largest monthly payment, no card issuer economics required, and Bilt extended from there toward mortgages and neighborhood commerce. Its points are valued by the points guy at 2.2 cents each. Read that number again. The highest valuation of any transferable currency in America, above Amex, above Chase, on a roster of 25-plus partners, including the Hyatt and Alaska relationships the giants lack. Bilt matters here for 3 reasons. First, it proves the American transferable currency market rewards a new entrant only when the entrant owns an untouched earn category, rent, rather than a better redemption shelf. Nobody won by having nicer partners. Bilt won by owning spend nobody else could reach. Second, it demonstrates the valuation mechanics HeyMax should envy: currency value driven by partner quality and transfer optionality, amplified through exactly the media machine chapter 16 profiles. And third, Bilt is already in HeyMax's hemisphere. Bilt joined JAL Mileage Bank in 2026, the same program HeyMax treaty signed. Bilt is not a distant case study. It is a competitor for the same Asian award space, arriving with 2.2 cent points and an American member base behind them. The chapter's analytical point sharpens on a single question. Why do the bank currencies transfer free when every transfer is pure cost to the issuer? Because the transfer roster is customer acquisition marketing for card products whose real economics live in interchange and annual fees. The roster is a loss leader for the card. That is the structural fact an entrant cannot arbitrage around. HeyMax must fund its roster from commission margin. For HeyMax, the mile is the product. Chase funds its roster from a $100 billion toll. For Chase, the mile is the advertisement. Competing against a loss leader funded by the world's deepest pool is the definition of a closed market. And it is closed not by regulation, not by conspiracy, but by a business model whose subsidy no outsider can match. One absence from the American shelf deserves noting before this chapter closes, because it is the volume's single thread of opportunity, and it will return in Chapter 14. The bank rosters are Asia-thin. Chase reaches Singapore Airlines, but not JAL, not Cathay. Amex reaches ANA, but the rest of its Asian coverage runs through European proxies. The American currencies collectively underserve exactly the North Asian programs whose award charts American optimizers increasingly chase. That gap is why Bilt and Rove raced each other to add JAL. And it is why the only real American angle this volume will find sits on the wholesale side of this exact asymmetry. HeyMax holds treaty access to the Asian shelf that American currencies are still assembling, program by program, check by check. 4 giants, 1 wedge champion, all funded by the pool, all free at the point of transfer. The next chapter meets the company that took the one remaining niche, the exact niche HeyMax occupies at home. Chapter 4, the American HeyMax. In April 2025, a venture-backed startup launched a loyalty currency in the United States with the following pitch: a universal airline mile, earned without any credit card, through shopping and travel bookings, transferable into a roster of airline programs, with award booking across 140 carriers built directly into the product. The company is called Rove, and this chapter examines it with the care owed to a doppelganger, because Rove is, feature for feature, HeyMax's model, rebuilt by Americans for America. Its existence single-handedly closes the last vacancy this volume might otherwise have found. The product, precisely. Rove miles are earned primarily through an online shopping portal at rates reaching 25 times on promotions, through hotel bookings on Rove's own travel platform at 7 times standard, and through referral mechanics. No credit card required, which Rove markets as democratizing a hobby locked behind premium card approvals. The miles transfer to roughly 20 airline and hotel partners, and the roster skews exactly where the last chapter said the gap was: Asia forward, including the JAL Mileage Bank rail Rove joined in 2026. And the redemption backstop mirrors HeyMax's Fly Anywhere, award search and booking across 140 airlines inside Rove's own interface, giving the currency a floor value independent of any single partner. Swap the names, and any paragraph of that description would sit unedited in this series' Singapore volume. The universal mile, the no-card gate, the shopping urn, the transfer roster, the booking backstop. Every element of HeyMax's architecture launched into the world's largest market by founders who almost certainly never studied Singapore. The comparison teaches in both directions. Run it honestly. Where Rove trails HeyMax. Depth of operating record, HeyMax has 3 years of issuance, a 2-market merchant floor over 1,000 brands deep, the Visa wallet layer, and the fintech lattice this series' partnerships volume mapped. Rove has none of that yet. Currency governance, HeyMax's treaty tier rate discipline against Rove's promotional early life pricing. And concentration of niche, Singapore's miles culture packs more optimizers per capita than anywhere in America. Where Rove leads. Market size, its home market's points-literate population exceeds Singapore's entire population many times over. Media leverage, Rove launched into the professional points media machine of Chapter 16 and received coverage in days that HeyMax has never enjoyed in English. And the strategic asymmetry this volume keeps circling, Rove is expanding into HeyMax's redemption geography, while HeyMax has no mechanism to expand into Rove's. When Rove joined JAL, it joined the program whose award space this series, Japan volume, documented thinning under new feeder demand. Every Asian treaty HeyMax signs is now a template an American peer can follow with a bigger check. Because an airline's decision to sell feeder access, once made, is made for everyone. The deeper lesson in the Rove case is about convergent evolution, and it is worth a paragraph because it reframes how HeyMax should think about its own originality. Two teams on opposite sides of the planet, with no visible knowledge of each other, arrived at the identical product architecture. A no-card transferable mile, funded by commissions, backstopped by a booking engine. That convergence says the architecture is not an invention. It is a discovery, the natural shape any team finds when it asks how to give non-card holders a transferable travel currency in the 2020s. And discoveries, unlike inventions, cannot be owned. Wherever the conditions exist, affiliate rails, willing airline partners, a points-literate population, someone will find the same shape. The strategic consequence runs two ways. HeyMax cannot rely on the model itself as a moat anywhere, including at home. The moat is execution depth, the treaty conduct, the coalition lattice, the community standing that take years to replicate. And conversely, every market this series has scored as open, the deficits of Asia, should be assumed to have a future Rove already fundraising for it. The question in every remaining market volume is never whether the model arrives. It is who gets the deficits first. Built completes the challenger picture from the adjacent angle. Where Rove copied the model without cards, Built attacked through recurring spend, rent, then mortgages, and built the highest valued transferable currency in America on a category the bank structurally ignored. Between the two of them, the challengers have claimed both of the entry wedges a foreign startup could theoretically have used. The no-card wedge, Rove, April 2025. The untouched spend wedge, Built, since 2021. The American market did what mature markets do. It filled its own gaps, with domestic capital and domestic founders, faster than any foreign entrant could have moved. It is worth asking why Rove launched when it did, because the timing carries information about the category's economics. Rove arrived in 2025, after the pandemic taught airlines worldwide to monetize their programs, after Built proved a non-bank currency could reach a 2-cent valuation, and after the credit card welcome bonus war had priced tens of millions of Americans out of the premium tier through application rules and credit thresholds. In other words, Rove launched at the exact moment the supply side, airlines selling access, and the demand side, locked out consumers, both matured. HeyMax launched into the same convergence 3 years earlier in a smaller market, which is why this volume keeps calling them convergent rather than imitative. But the timing asymmetry has a sting. Rove enters its home market with the category already proven, the valuation templates already public, and the airline sell decision already made globally. It skips every evangelism cost HeyMax paid in Singapore. The second mover in a proven category, funded at American scale, tends to move faster than the pioneer did. A base rate the threats chapter must respect when it estimates how quickly Rove could appear in Asia. The chapter's conclusion is uncomfortable, and it deserves stating without cushioning. HeyMax's product, translated to English, funded by American venture capital, already exists. It launched first in its own market, and it is racing HeyMax for the Asian airline shelf that constitutes HeyMax's core asset. The competitive question this series has asked in every market, who would HeyMax displace, inverts one final time here. In America, the displacement risk runs toward HeyMax, in HeyMax's own region. The Japan volume counted Built and Rove among the feeder currencies crowding JAL's award space. This chapter names the mechanism behind the crowd. The American challengers are globalizing Asian program access as their differentiation strategy, precisely because their home markets bank giants own everything else. Asia is their frontier because America is their wall. So the United States is not a market HeyMax can enter. It is the market whose exports HeyMax must now outrun at home. Chapter 15 prices that threat in full. First, though, two more layers of the machine deserve their audit, because they answer the last version of the entry question anyone might still be holding. Could HeyMax at least bring its earn model to America? The shopping portals and the Cashback Ocean answer no in the most instructive way possible. The portals first, and the surprise of who runs them. Chapter 5, The Portal Machine. HeyMax's founding mechanism, click-through, shop, earn airline-bound currency on the commission, operates in the United States at a scale and with an ownership structure that this chapter must document carefully, because the ownership is the strategic point. In America, the airlines run the shopping portals themselves, and the infrastructure underneath them belongs to a subsidiary of Rakuten. The surface first: A-Advantage e-shopping, Mileage Plus shopping, SkyMiles shopping. The shopping portals of American, United, and Delta each cover 900 to 1,200 retailers, paying miles per dollar on click-through purchases, exactly as HeyMax's merchant floor does. The programs are free. They sit one click from each airline's own website. They are promoted to combined memberships in the hundreds of millions. American's version compounds the pull by paying elite qualifying loyalty points alongside redeemable miles. Shopping literally counts towards status, welding the portal to the status-chasing instinct that organizes the entire hobby. Alongside the airline portals run the bank equivalents. Chase and Capital One operate their own shopping portals feeding their own currencies, and the hotels run versions of their own. Every major American loyalty currency, in other words, already has its own HeyMax-shaped earn surface, branded in its own name, feeding its own program. Now the infrastructure. This is where the chapter's real finding sits. The airline portals are not built by the airlines. They are operated by a company called Cartera Commerce, the white label specialist that has run the majors' shopping programs for 2 decades. And Cartera was acquired in 2017 by Rakuten. Sit with the corporate geometry for a moment. The Japanese e-commerce giant, whose gravity this series mapped in the Japan volume, the company whose ecosystem lattice defines loyalty in its home market, owns the plumbing through which American airlines convert shopping commissions into miles. The affiliate-to-miles conversion layer, the exact infrastructure HeyMax hand-built in Singapore, exists in America as a 20-year-old business-to-business industry, serving the airlines as clients, at the scale of thousands of merchant relationships, under the ownership of one of the largest e-commerce companies on Earth. Pause on how the airline portals weaponize status, because it is the mechanism a third party can least replicate. Americans' e-shopping pays loyalty points, the elite qualifying currency, on portal purchases, which means a Dallas consultant chasing platinum status can close the gap by routing holiday shopping through the portal, no flying required. The American majors have effectively imported Japan's ground miler culture and attached it to status, the hobby's strongest addiction. The consequence for the portal wars: the airline portal is not merely competitive on rate, it pays a second currency nobody else mints. A third-party portal can match miles per dollar. It cannot mint loyalty points or medallion qualification dollars or any of the status currencies that decide where the serious spender routes their clicks. This is the counterpart to what this series found in Japan, where the point sites ad quota lattices generated income no newcomer could match. The incumbents everywhere anchor their portals in a currency adjacent to the shopping, attention there, status here, that a rate-matching entrant cannot print. The lesson generalizes into HeyMax's own playbook at home. The defensible portal is the one paying something only you can pay. The implications for any HeyMax-shaped entry are terminal, worth separating into 3. First, the demand side is locked. An American Optimiser who wants miles on online shopping goes to their own airline's portal. Same merchants, miles deposited directly into the program they actually fly, elite credit attached, 0 new accounts. A third-party portal offering its own intermediate currency must beat the airline's first-party rate, and overcome the redemption friction of converting through a middleman. And the comparison shopping is already institutionalized. Portal rate aggregators track every portal's rate on every merchant daily. The market is perfectly transparent and mercilessly commodified. In that transparency, third parties compete on pure rate, which is why the surviving independents are cashback players, not currency builders. Second, the supply side is intermediated. Merchant affiliate budgets flow to the portals through the same network rails HeyMax uses everywhere. But the marquee contracts run through Cartera's consolidated buying power, negotiated on behalf of programs with hundreds of millions of combined members. A new entrant negotiates commissions from beneath the aggregated volume of the entire American airline industry. The commissions spread that funds max miles in Singapore, where HeyMax was early enough to organize the channel itself, is, in America, already organized, already compressed, already contractually spoken for. Third, the reflexive lesson, the volume's recurring mirror. The American structure shows what the mature endgame of HeyMax's own channel looks like. Portals become white-label infrastructure serving whichever currencies own the members. The infrastructure operator, Cartera, captures steady business-to-business economics. The programs capture the loyalty. This is precisely the wholesale trajectory. This series partnerships volume mapped for HeyMax in Asia. Be the currency and the rail that others build on. And it is precisely why the consumer version of the model cannot be exported into a market where the infrastructure tier already exists. HeyMax's Asian edge is being the currency, the portal, and the community simultaneously, in markets where nobody else assembled all three. In America, each of the three is a separate incumbent industry with its own capital behind it. The chapter's verdict compressed. The earn model has no American entry point. The airlines own the shelf. Rakuten owns the plumbing. The rate war is publicly tracked to the basis point. A Singapore startup's shopping portal would enter that market with no differentiation on any axis the American consumer can perceive. What remains of the earn side question is the consumer layer beside the portals, the Cashback Ocean, where American households actually shop, and where one more giant closes the loop this chapter opened. The giant, once again, is Rakuten, wearing its other hat. Chapter 6, the Cashback Ocean. Beside the portal machine spreads the consumer layer American households actually use at mass scale. The cashback platforms. This chapter maps the ocean, its giants, its economics, and the single feature inside it that matters most to this volume. Because one American cashback giant has already built the Cashback to Points bridge that, everywhere else in this series, counts as HeyMax's signature move. The scale first. Rakuten Rewards, the former Ebates, acquired by the Japanese group in 2014, is the category's institution. 3,500 merchants, over $3.5 billion of cashback paid across its history, quarterly payment checks that have become a minor American ritual. Brand recognition built by years of network television advertising. This is what the mature version of a cashback platform looks like, a household name old enough to have traditions. Around it, the rest of the ocean. Capital One Shopping, the bank-owned browser extension whose price comparison hooks put it on tens of millions of machines. Honey, acquired by PayPal for $4 billion in 2020, a price that announced exactly how seriously American platforms value the checkout layer. Top Cashback. Ibotta, the grocery receipt player, publicly listed. Upside for fuel, Fetch for receipts. A venture-funded ecosystem occupying every sub-niche of commission recycling. The economics run exactly as this series' Korea volume predicted for mature cashback markets. Pure pass-through competition. The platforms rebate most of the affiliate commission to the shopper. They compete on published rate tables, tracked daily by aggregator sites built for the purpose. They monetize scale, data, and float. Margins are thin. Loyalty is nil. Multi-homing across 3 portals is standard practice. Differentiation cycles endlessly through temporary rate boosts. It is the commodity endgame of the shop-through model, operating at a scale that would absorb HeyMax's entire merchant floor as a rounding error. The Ocean's history carries a warning this series has met before, and it belongs in the record. The American cashback wars of the 2010s burned through dozens of funded startups, the coupon platforms, the rebate apps, the card-linked pioneers, and the survivors won on distribution, not product. Ebates won by buying television. Honey won by owning the browser moment and sold itself to the company that owned the checkout. Capital One Shopping won by pre-installing itself on a bank's customer base. Every survivor's edge was a channel, not a feature, because in commodity cashback, features copy in a quarter and channels compound for a decade. That is the market structure law an entrant would face, and it prices the entry precisely. To matter in American cashback, you must buy a channel at American media prices, the television budgets, the browser real estate, the bank distribution, against incumbents who bought theirs a decade ago at a fraction of today's cost. HeyMax's channel at home is community standing, earned when the Singapore market was young and attention was cheap. America's attention market closed that window years before HeyMax existed. Now the strategically load-bearing feature, and it sits inside Rakuten Rewards. Since 2019, Rakuten members can elect to receive their cashback not as dollars, but as American Express membership rewards points. The conversion effectively turns each cent of cashback into one membership rewards point, and the community values those points at roughly 2 cents each. Which means the toggle turns $1 of cashback into roughly $2 of perceived travel value. The mechanics matter less than the meaning. The largest American cashback platform already operates a cash or points bridge with the largest American bank currency, giving tens of millions of members a shopping to transferable points pipeline at better implied value than cash. This is HeyMax's core consumer arbitrage. Commissions become travel currency worth more than the cash alternative. It is running at national scale, under a household brand, in partnership with the incumbent currency rather than in competition with it. The one mechanism a Singapore entrant might have called novel is not merely present in America. It is a 7-year-old feature of the market leader. And note who owns the market leader, because the pattern from the last chapter completes here. Rakuten owns the biggest American cashback platform, and Rakuten, through Cartera, owns the infrastructure behind the airlines' own shopping portals. Both sides of the American shop-through economy, the same conglomerate, assembled through a decade of acquisitions. The Japan volume mapped Rakuten as the weather system over its home market. This volume finds the same company quietly weathering over the American earn layer too. Any theoretical HeyMax entry would compete against Rakuten's consumer brand on one flank and Rakuten's business-to-business plumbing on the other. One more current runs through the ocean worth naming for the record, the Rakuten data tier. Ibotta and Fetch pay consumers for scanned grocery receipts, monetizing not the affiliate commission, but the purchase data. Selling consumer packaged goods manufactures the item-level visibility that card networks cannot provide. It is the only corner of the American earn economy whose funding source is neither interchange nor affiliate margin, and its existence completes the taxonomy. America has productized every possible way to pay a consumer for shopping, commission pass-through, interchange recycling, and now data monetization, each at public company scale. For the entry question, this adds nothing. The data tier is as occupied as the rest. For the almanac, it adds a genuine entry. Item-level receipt earn is a mechanic no Asian rewards platform has industrialized. The consumer goods advertising budgets that fund it exist in every market, and a privacy-respectful Asian version, receipts for miles, is exactly the kind of American-proven, Asian-novel mechanic the mirror practice exists to catch. File it beside Bilt's rent wedge in the annual harvest. What the ocean teaches in 3 lines. The earn layer in America is commodity infrastructure. No entrant differentiates on shop-through economics when rates are tracked to the basis point across a dozen platforms. The points bridge is built. The cash-to-currency conversion that anchors HeyMax's Singapore identity exists at scale via Rakuten and Amex. the last consumer-side novelty is gone. And the ownership map is consolidated. The layer belongs to giants, PayPal, Capital One, Rakuten, for whom it is a strategic feature of larger empires. These are exactly the no-deficit counterparties this series' partnership grammar teaches HeyMax to refuse, and they are impossible to outspend. The machine is now fully walked. Programs, pool, bank currencies, challengers, portals, cashback, 6 layers, 6 sets of incumbents, 0 vacancies. 1 layer remains before the storm, the tools, because HeyMax's most defensible product has American twins too, and they come with better plumbing. Chapter 7, the Optimiser's Toolkit. 1 more layer of the machine needs walking before the storm chapter. The tools. Card Maximizer, the wallet-watching engine this series' product volume rated HeyMax's deepest moat, has, in the United States, an entire venture-funded category of direct equivalents. Their existence completes the no-vacancy audit and teaches one uncomfortable lesson about how moats travel. The category mapped, Max Rewards, connects to a user's card accounts, tells them which card to use at which merchant, tracks bonus categories and spending caps. Card Maximizer's American twin lives since 2019 with coverage across MasterCard, Visa, and American Express that HeyMax's Visa-only integration cannot match. Kudos, the same proposition delivered as a checkout layer browser extension, venture-backed, marketed on exactly the missed rewards statistic HeyMax's own Singapore marketing uses. Card Pointers, the power user version, tracking every issuer offer and category across hundreds of cards. Award Wallet, 2 decades old, tracking balances and expirations across every loyalty program a household holds. And the redemption side runs deeper still. Point Me, Seats Arrow, Points Yeah, Rome, an entire award search industry that turns transfer partner optimization into subscription software, funded, staffed, and competing at a depth Asia has not produced. The skill HeyMax's Fly Anywhere feature packages for Singaporeans is, in America, its own software vertical with its own pricing tiers. One case inside the toolkit deserves its own beat because it shows how fast this layer moves. Award Search. 5 years ago, finding partner award space was a craft, forum, lore, manual searching, the expertise that award booking consultants charged hundreds of dollars to apply. Then the tools arrived. Seats Arrow indexed availability across alliances and sold alerts as a subscription. Point Me built natural language award search over the transfer rosters. Within 3 years, the consultancy craft had been productized into software with tiered pricing, and the tools themselves became acquisition targets and media darlings. Now note the speed lesson. An informational edge that took the community 2 decades to accumulate was converted into commodity software inside one funding cycle, because American venture capital treats every optimization practice as a seed round waiting to happen. That is the metabolism HeyMax would compete against, and the metabolism its own tools will eventually face at home as Asia's markets mature and the same capital arrives. Card Maximizer's moat in Singapore is real today. The American toolkit is the picture of that moat's future. Deep until the day the aggregation rails and the funding show up, then a category with 5 competitors by Christmas. 3 observations complete the audit. Each generalizes beyond the tools. First, the tooling depth is a symptom of the market's maturity, not an accident. America's rewards complexity, 4 transferable bank currencies, dozens of co-brands, rotating categories, transfer bonuses, creates optimization surface area. And American venture capital funds tools for every inch of it. Chapter 1 noted that the incumbents chose complexity as their weakness. This chapter shows the consequence. The complexity is already monetized by natives. The gap Card Maximizer fills in Singapore existed because nobody had built the tool. In America, the tool category has its own competitive landscape, its own funding cycles, and its own churn. Second, the infrastructure asymmetry runs against the foreigner. American tools ride account aggregation rails, Plaid, and its peers that provide multi-network transaction visibility no single card network's API can match. That is why Max Rewards covers 3 networks while Card Maximizer covers 1. HeyMax's Visa offers platform integration is a differentiator in Asia, where aggregation rails are thin and the Visa relationship is rare access. In America, aggregation is a commodity utility, and the Visa-only limitation would be a visible handicap. The moat travels backward. What is deep at home is shallow abroad, because the ground itself is different. Third, the synthesis that closes the 6-layer walk. Notice what the American market does to every component of HeyMax's bundle, one by one. The currency, 4 bank giants plus Built plus Rove. The shopping portal, airline-owned Carter-a-Run. The cashback, Rakuten's Ocean. The wallet tool, Max Rewards and its rivals. The award search, an industry with subscription tiers. In Singapore, HeyMax's power is the bundle, currency, portal, tool, and community in one app, assembled in a market where no single piece existed before. America has every piece, unbundled, each at category scale, each with its own capital behind it. And here is the market structure truth this series has observed everywhere tools compete. Bundles lose to best-of-breed in markets where the consumer already multi-homes. The American Optimiser runs Max Rewards for the wallet, their airline's portal for shopping, Rakuten for cashback, Seats Arrow for awards, 4 tabs, 0 friction, no desire whatsoever for a 5th app that does all 4 things slightly worse. The bundle strategy works where the alternative is nothing. It fails where the alternative is everything. The Toolkit's business models deserve one more beat because they preview a question HeyMax will face at home. How do the American tools make money? 3 ways, each with a lesson. Subscriptions, card pointers, and the award search tier charge power users directly, proving optimizers pay cash for optimization. The lesson is that HeyMax's free tooling is a strategic choice, not a necessity, and the choice is correct exactly as long as the tool's job is feeding the currency rather than being the business. Referrals, Max Rewards, and Kudos monetize card applications, importing the media machine's conflict into software. The lesson is the same caution as the people chapters. And data, the aggregation rail tools sit on transaction flows whose anonymized value exceeds their subscription revenue. The lesson is that wallet visibility is an asset class of its own, and HeyMax's Card Maximizer data, the spending map of Singapore's most valuable consumers, is worth more as coalition partner intelligence than it could ever earn as a product. 3 models, 3 lessons, none requiring entry to learn. The toolkit, like everything American, teaches best from a distance. The machine audit ends here, with its conclusion earned layer by layer. 6 chapters, every layer occupied, most by multiple incumbents, several by companies whose market value exceeds the entire Singapore fintech sector. The no vacancy verdict is not an impression, it is an inventory. What could change this picture is not competition. Nothing inside the machine dislodges the machine. What could change it is law, the one force in America big enough to reprice the pool that everything above floats on. Washington next. Chapter 8, The Toll Under Siege. Every market volume in this series has a toll chapter, the external force repricing the game while the players play it. Japan's toll was fuel surcharges. America's is legislative, and it is aimed at the foundation itself. The Credit Card Competition Act, the bill that would restructure the interchange pool funding every chapter so far. This chapter prices the siege. Its mechanism, its odds, and its consequences for a market this volume has already scored as closed. The mechanism, precisely. The Credit Card Competition Act, reintroduced in Congress on the 13th of January, 2026, does not cap credit interchange directly. It mandates routing competition. Banks above $100 billion in assets would be required to enable at least one payment network besides Visa or MasterCard on every credit card they issue. Merchants could then route transactions over whichever network charges less. The design deliberately imports the Durbin Amendment's debit playbook into credit. And the debit precedent is the entire argument. After Durbin's routing and cap regime landed in 2011, large bank debit rewards died within a year. Not shrank. Died. The interchange that funded them fell by roughly half, and the programs vanished. The bill's sponsors project tens of billions of dollars in annual merchant savings. Its opponents, the banks and airlines, spending a reported $200 million against it, call it the end of credit card rewards as America knows them. One industry-commissioned analysis projects a $228 billion economic hit if rewards collapse takes travel demand down with it. The politics, honestly handicapped. The bill has failed to reach a floor vote in 3 prior Congresses. The bank lobby's blocking power is real. But note what changed in 2026. Presidential sympathy, Trump publicly endorsed action against what he called the swipe fee ripoff, a populist coalition spanning both parties' merchant-friendly wings. And the accumulated salience of a $100 billion toll in an era of affordability politics. The honest read, passage this year remains unlikely, but the direction is one way. This series has now watched 4 governments discover interchange: Australia, Korea, the European Union, Japan's trade ministry now circling. And it has recorded the doctrine each time. State attention to merchant fees never reverses. Disclosure or routing is the first act. Caps are the second. America is simply the largest instance of the pattern, moving at whatever speed its lobbying equilibrium allows. Understand also who is fighting whom, because the coalition map explains the bill's persistence better than its text does. On one side, the merchant lobby, the big box retailers, the convenience chains, the restaurant associations, for whom interchange is a top 5 expense line and a decade-old grievance. On the other, the banks, the networks, and the distinctive American twist, the airlines, whose loyalty programs would lose their biggest customers' budgets, and who lobby accordingly alongside the hotel chains and the travel industry. Between them, 100 million households who have been taught, by 2 decades of marketing, that their credit cards pay for their holidays, the constituency whose anger both sides invoke. The fight has spent years deadlocked because both coalitions are enormous, both spend freely, and both can credibly claim the consumer. But note the asymmetry that worries the reward side. The merchant coalition only has to win once. The bank coalition has to win every session forever. That is the shape of every regulatory siege this series has watched: Australia's caps, Korea's schedule, Durban itself, and in every prior instance, the side that needed to win only once eventually did. Now the consequences for this volume's question. They run in an unexpected direction. If the act passes, the American rewards machine shrinks violently. The Bank Currencies of Chapter 3, funded from the uncapped credit tier, face Durban-style compression. The airline's $20 billion miles market loses its biggest buyers' budgets. The welcome bonus culture, the portal boosts, the 2% baseline all deflate together. A naive reading says, vacancy at last. The incumbent subsidy dies, and lean commission-funded models like HeyMax's suddenly compete on level ground. That reading deserves to be taken seriously, and then rejected for 2 reasons. First, look at who survives a rewards collapse: the models that never depended on interchange. The Cashback Ocean, commission-funded. The airline portals, commission-funded. Rove, commission-funded. America's own lean tier is incumbent, branded, and positioned to absorb 100 million disappointed cardholders without a foreign accent. A post-legislation America is better ground for Rove, not an opening for HeyMax. Second, the transition would be chaos exactly where an entrant needs stability. Program devaluations, partner repricings. Consumer trust shocks rolling through the very travel currency layer an entrant would be selling into. Nobody launches a loyalty currency into a market actively learning that loyalty currencies can be legislated away. For completeness, note the siege's second front, because interchange is not the only artillery. The consumer protection apparatus has spent recent years circling loyalty programs directly, inquiries into devaluation practices, airline program transparency, the question of whether points constitute consumer value that can be revoked at will. The regulatory theory is different: consumer protection rather than merchant relief, but the target is the same asset class, and the two fronts reinforce. Every devaluation scandal the media machine amplifies becomes evidence in both dockets. A rewards economy under simultaneous scrutiny for charging merchants too much and paying consumers too unreliably is an industry whose social license is being repriced. The relevance to a foreign observer. Program conduct regulation, unlike interchange caps, would raise the value of well-governed currencies, the treaty tier discipline, the published rates. The no-custody architecture this series keeps crediting to HeyMax would read under a conduct regime as compliance built in advance. The interchange front threatens the pool. The conduct front, if it ever matures, flatters exactly the governance this series' subject practices. Neither justifies entry. Both belong in the watch file. The sharper consequence is the one that travels home. The Credit Card Competition Act is the loudest demonstration yet of this series' oldest structural warning. Rewards economies are creatures of interchange politics, and interchange politics moves in one direction everywhere. Singapore's uncapped pool, HeyMax's birthright, exists at regulatory pleasure. Japan's trade ministry is already circling its 3%. The American siege, watched from Singapore, is not an opportunity. It is a rehearsal. And what survives in the rehearsal is instructive: merchant commission economics, partner-funded deals, wholesale currency sales. Precisely the non-interchange revenue lines this series' partnerships volume ranked highest for HeyMax's own future. A company built on those lines survives the storm in any hemisphere. A company built on interchange subsidies is one congressional session from a different business. The machine and now its storm are both on the table. Time to bring HeyMax itself into the frame, starting with its American record, which is the cleanest record this series has ever audited. A perfect, deliberate zero. Chapter 9: What America Doesn't Have. Before the record and the verdict machinery, one chapter of deliberate contrarianism. 7 chapters of occupied layers invite a lazy conclusion: nothing is missing, close the book. This series method demands the harder exercise. Hunt the gaps properly, the way the Japan volume hunted the incumbent's chosen weaknesses. Test each one, and see what survives. 4 candidate gaps, 4 tests. Candidate 1, the no-card population. Roughly a fifth of American adults are credit-thin or credit-averse. The premium rewards machine excludes them by design because the pool pays out through credit products. A transferable currency earned without credit approval serves them. That gap is real, and it is exactly Rove's founding pitch and exactly Built's rent wedge. 2 domestic champions, first-mover brands, native media reach, venture funding. A third entrant into the no-card niche, foreign and later, has no story the first 2 have not already told better. Verdict: gap closed. Candidate 2, the Asia shelf. The last chapters found it. The American Bank Currencies underserved North Asian programs. No JAL on any bank roster. Cathay reachable mainly through Amex. EVA and the Southeast Asian tail practically absent. American Optimisers chasing Asian premium cabin awards, the community's aspirational obsession for a decade, route awkwardly through European proxies or through the new challengers. Tested, the gap is genuine, but look at its shape. It is an inventory gap, not a platform gap. It gets filled program by program, as Built, Rove, and eventually the banks sign the Asian shelf. The JAL races of 2026 are the filling, happening in public. And an inventory gap rewards suppliers, not competitors. This gap is HeyMax relevant. It is the raw material of Chapter 14's wholesale angle, but it is not an entry door. Verdict: real, but it belongs to whoever holds the contracts, not whoever launches an app. Candidate 3, the immigrant corridors. Asian American households, 24 million people, the country's highest income demographic segment, over-index on exactly the travel HeyMax's roster serves. Trans-Pacific family routes, Asian carriers, Asian destinations. The American loyalty machine serves them generically. No product speaks natively to the corridor traveler. Tested, the demographic logic is real and the products are absent, but the mechanics fail. Serving this niche requires American merchant contracts, the occupied floor, American payment rails, American marketing. The full entry stack, deployed to reach a population the incumbent currencies already serve at 90% adequacy. Diaspora niches reward marketing calibration by incumbents, not platform entry by foreigners. Verdict: illusory. It is a segment strategy for Chase, not a beachhead for Singapore. Candidate 4, the post-legislation vacuum. If Washington guts interchange-funded rewards, the bank currencies shrink and commission-funded models inherit the market. Tested in the last chapter, the inheritance goes to America's own lean tier, Rakuten, the airline portal's Rove, incumbent, branded, and waiting. Verdict: real someday for somebody else. There is a fifth candidate worth recording precisely because it fails in an instructive way: simplicity. The Japan volume found the incumbent's chosen weakness was conditionality, and HeyMax's wedge was the unconditional rate. Could the same wedge work against American complexity, the annual fee ladders, the category calendars, the 5-currency household? Test it. The American market has already productized the simplicity position twice over. The 2% flat rate cashback card is the simplicity product: no categories, no fees, no thinking, and it holds enormous market share among consumers who opted out of the optimization game. And for those who stay in the game, the complexity is not a pain to relieve. It is the hobby itself. The American Optimiser enjoys the ladder, the churn calendar, the 524 rule, the category dance are the sport, with an industry of media narrating it. Japan's conditionality was recented compliance. America's complexity is voluntary play. A simplicity wedge aimed at people who chose complexity for fun converts nobody. The people who wanted simple already have their flat 2%. Verdict: not a gap, a preference structure, fully served at both ends. The failure teaches the general rule: a wedge needs recented friction, and America's friction is beloved. Now the synthesis, and it is the volume's pivot. America's gaps are all either closed by domestic challengers, structural inventory shortfalls that reward suppliers, or contingencies whose beneficiaries are already seated. What survives the hunt is exactly one asset-shaped fact. HeyMax holds what the gap fillers need. The Asia shelf being raced for, JAL, Cathay, EVA, the Southeast Asian tail, is HeyMax's existing treaty rack. The American challengers building Asian rosters are negotiating, program by program, for access HeyMax already has. The American Optimiser's dream redemptions run through award charts HeyMax's currency already reaches. In every prior volume, the gap analysis asked where HeyMax could stand in the market. In America, the answer is nowhere on the field, but possibly at the supplier's gate, selling the one inventory the field is short of. Whether that gate is real commerce or a strategy deck mirage is Chapter 14's question. The honest preview: thinner than it looks, because the airlines can sell to everyone directly, and JAL's 2026 behavior proves they will. The method note, before moving on, since this chapter's technique will be reused in the volumes ahead. The gap hunt ran 4 candidates through 3 tests each. Is the gap structural or cosmetic? Is it already claimed or actively being filled? And does its natural owner look like HeyMax or like someone else? The third test did the most work, and it is the one most analyses skip. The Asia shelf gap is real, and its natural owner is a contract holder, not an app. The no-card gap was real, and its natural owner was whoever moved first with local capital. The diaspora gap is cosmetic. Its natural owner is an incumbent's marketing team. Gap analysis that stops at existence produces entry theses. Gap analysis that assigns ownership produces strategy. The distinction is why this chapter found one supplier's gate where a lazier read would have found 4 beachheads, and why the Canada and Brazil volumes that follow this one will run the same ownership test before believing any vacancy they find. The gaps are hunted. The market stands as audited: no entry door, one supplier's gate, a storm overhead. Now the record, what HeyMax has actually done about the United States. It is the shortest record chapter in the series' history, and the most correct. Chapter 10, A Deliberate Zero. This series audits corporate records by artifacts, phone gates, storefront metadata, careers pages, partner rosters, sitemap enumerations. Run the full method against HeyMax in America, and the result is unique across 12 volumes, a zero so complete and so consistent that it constitutes, for once, evidence of good judgment rather than neglect. This chapter documents the zero briefly and then reads its meaning, because the meaning matters more than the inventory. The inventory, the sign-up gate, 4 phone prefixes, Singapore, Hong Kong, Australia, Indonesia, no +1. The United States has never appeared in HeyMax's onboarding map. The expansion communications. The January 2026 Series A named Japan, Taiwan, and Australia by end of year, and framed the entire ambition as Asia-Pacific regional expansion in travel and loyalty across APAC, in the release's own words. No HeyMax artifact this series has ever audited mentions American entry, American hiring, or American product work. The career's history, 0 U.S. roles ever. The app stores, available for download in the American storefronts as a passive global listing, the same distribution artifact the Japan volume documented with no American localization of anything. No pricing, no payout rails, no card coverage, because none exists. The merchant floor, American brands appear as earn merchants through global affiliate contracts. The Amazon tier names any member anywhere can shop. That is merchant-side plumbing, not market presence. And set the zero against the removals, because the one active American decision HeyMax has ever made ran in the opposite direction of entry. The June 2026 Cash for Miles shutdown deleted every American program from the redemption shelf. United, American, Alaska, Hilton, Marriott, Hyatt. The full U.S. tier, gone in one stroke, for exactly the wholesale price reasons Chapter 12 formalizes. Faced with a choice about its American exposure, HeyMax reduced it. It cut the expensive decorative tier and kept only the affiliate earn relationships that cost nothing. That is the entire American record: passive global distribution, commodity affiliate earn, and one deliberate retreat from American redemption economics. For calibration, place the zero beside the records this series has graded before, because the grading scale only means something in comparison. Taiwan, a promise made in writing, a rail built, and then nothing, a record this series scored as promise-heavy and delivery light, not credible. Australia, an entry executed as a settings change, 10 weeks of silence, and a quiet retreat, a record of gesture. Korea, a market named once in a press release and never again, a record of vapor. Japan, the split record, infrastructure without operations, that took a full volume to adjudicate. Against that gallery, the American record is the only one with perfect internal consistency. No promise, no artifact, no gesture, no vapor. Nothing was said and nothing was done, and the two match. It sounds like faint praise. It is not. This series has spent 11 volumes documenting how expensive the gap between saying and doing has been for this company: the Taiwan discount, the Australia scar, the December deadline pressure in Japan. America is the one geography where the gap is zero, because both sides of it are zero. The discipline of not promising turns out to be the same muscle as the discipline of not entering. Where HeyMax has exercised it, this series has nothing to prosecute. Now the reading, which inverts this series' usual record chapter grammar entirely. In Taiwan, absence of record damned a promise. In Korea, absence confirmed a refusal. In Japan, a split record demanded a book's worth of interpretation. In America, the zero is the strategy, and every piece of external evidence says it is the right one. The company that promised 5 markets and struggled to staff 1 has never once been tempted by the largest market on Earth. Which, given everything chapters 1 through 7 established, is precisely the discipline a 30-person company needs. The Asia-Pacific framing in the Series A release is a fence deliberately built. It tells investors, partners, and this series where the company will not go. And 3 years of artifacts show the fence holding. This series has spent 11 volumes teaching that HeyMax's promises trade at a discount. It is worth recording, for symmetry, that HeyMax's silences have been perfectly informative. The company has never mentioned America, and never should. The Zero also has an opportunity cost worth auditing, since discipline should be credited only after its price is checked. What did HeyMax give up by never touching America? Run the counterfactual honestly. An American launch in 2023, the company's most expansionary moment, would have burned the Series A on the customer acquisition costs this volume has priced, against incumbents at their strongest, before the Asian treaty rack existed to differentiate anything. The realistic outcome is the one the base rates predict. A footnote exit within 18 months, the fate of essentially every foreign consumer fintech entry into the American market this decade, the European neobanks that retreated, the super apps that never landed. Against that counterfactual, the Zero purchased. The Hong Kong entry, the JAL treaty, the coalition lattice, everything the company actually built with the capital and attention an American adventure would have consumed. The accounting is not close. The Zero was not a road not taken. It was the road that made the other roads affordable. And the clearest single demonstration in this series that for a 30-person company, the scarcest resource is not money but focus. And the highest return use of strategy is the elimination of directions. One nuance completes the record, because the Zero has a shadow side the later chapters need. HeyMax's American absence is not reciprocated. Built and Rove are in Asia, in HeyMax's JAL program, in its award space, in its competitive future. While HeyMax has no presence in theirs, by choice and by arithmetic. The record's asymmetry is strategic information. The boundary between the American and Asian rewards markets is permeable in exactly one direction. The American players have the capital to buy Asian shelf access. The Asian player cannot afford American shelf economics. The Zero is correct, and it is also a one-way mirror. The threats chapter will price what comes through it. The record stands, nothing built, nothing promised, one retreat, all of it correct. What remains is to check the Zero against the two things that could justify disturbing it, the corridor of American demand flowing toward Asia, and the wholesale wall that priced America off HeyMax's shelf in the first place. Chapter 11, The Corridor Question. Every market this series has declined to enter, it has asked whether the market could be served from outside. The corridor doctrine, the idea that turned Korea's no into a strategy and Japan's inbound wave into revenue. America deserves the same question, asked in both directions. This chapter answers it with the honesty the doctrine demands. The American corridor is real, enormous, and almost entirely unmonetizable by HeyMax, with one narrow exception worth keeping. Direction 1, Americans flowing toward Asia. The volume is spectacular and growing. The United States set records as a feeder market to Japan through 2025 and 2026, 345,000 American visitors in a single June, up 16% year-on-year. 717,000 American travelers reached Singapore in 2025. And American premium cabin demand anchors every trans-Pacific route in the network planning of every carrier HeyMax partners with. This is exactly the shape of flow the corridor doctrine monetizes for Japan, except for one mechanical gap. HeyMax monetizes corridors through its members, and Americans are not members. The Japan corridor works because Singaporeans booking Osaka hotels flow through HeyMax's app, earning on inventory HeyMax carries. The American corridor's bookings flow through Chase Travel, Amex Travel, Expedia, the airline websites. American demand captured by American platforms, funded by American interchange. HeyMax holds no earn relationship, no booking surface, and no currency presence anywhere in that chain. And acquiring one is precisely the market entry the first 9 chapters closed. The corridor exists. The toll booths belong to others. Scored honestly, 0. Direction 2, HeyMax's members flowing toward America. Here the corridor is real and owned, but small and already served. Singaporeans and Hong Kongers fly to the American West Coast and New York in meaningful numbers. Those trips are bookable through HeyMax's travel floor today. The Trip.com tier inventory covers American hotels and activities at the same commissions as anywhere on Earth. And the flights redeem through the existing treaty rack. EVA, JAL, Cathay, and the Asian Tail all sell and award Trans-Pacific seats. In other words, the member-side American corridor requires nothing new, no American entity, no American partner, no American program on the shelf. The cash for miles shutdown makes the points sharper, not weaker. HeyMax deleted the American programs and kept the American trips, because the redemption path to America runs through Asian carriers whose miles HeyMax can afford, not American carriers whose miles it cannot. The corridor was already optimized the day the expensive tier died. One more corridor deserves explicit pricing before the exception, because someone will eventually pitch it: the reverse diaspora corridor. Singaporeans and Hong Kongers living in America, students, professionals, the regional firms' expatriate rotations, number in the low hundreds of thousands, hold home market bank relationships, and fly home yearly. Could HeyMax serve them as an American toehold? The arithmetic says no, gently. The population is a fraction of HeyMax's home base. Its American spending runs through American cards on American rails HeyMax cannot see. Its home market earn, the Singapore cards it kept, the yearly ticket bought from a Singapore account, is already served by the existing app, which works fine from a Palo Alto sofa for everything that matters. The transfer shelf, the booking floor, the balance. The expatriate is, in product terms, already a member on holiday, a long holiday. Serving them better requires nothing American. It requires the destination earn thread below. The corridor pitch fails the same way the diaspora pitch failed in the Gap chapter. It describes a marketing segment, prices like a market entry, and delivers like neither. Now the narrow exception, the one live thread this chapter hands forward: destination earn. A Singaporean member spending 2 weeks in California generates hotel, activity, and shopping spend. HeyMax's global affiliate contracts catch part of it, the online booking tier. And they miss most of it, the in-country tier. The physical retail, the dining, the local services, where card-linked earn would apply. The partnership's volumes grammar prices this correctly. It is the inbound flywheel shape, foreign members earning inside a destination, and its enabler is the Visa card-linked layer, which is network infrastructure, not market infrastructure. If Card Maximizer's platform relationship ever extends to recognizing HeyMax members' Visa transactions on American soil, technically a configuration question inside the same Visa relationship, not an American market entry, then destination earn in America becomes a member feature rather than a market strategy. It is a small thread, worth a product ticket, not a chapter. But it is the only American revenue HeyMax could add without touching the closed market. And it generalizes to every destination its members fly, which is where its real value lives. The destination earn thread deserves one more paragraph of sizing, because small threads still deserve honest arithmetic. HeyMax's Singapore and Hong Kong members take, conservatively, tens of thousands of American trips a year. The West Coast Tech Corridor, the New York Finance Shuttle, the theme park family circuit. Average in-country spend per trip, beyond the pre-booked hotel, perhaps 2,000 to 3,000 Singapore dollars of dining, retail, and local services. Card-linked earn at even half a mile per dollar. On the fraction of that spend flowing through linked Visa cards, yields low tens of millions of miles annually, worth a few $100,000 of member value. Funded by whatever merchant offer economics the network's American card-linked infrastructure carries. Meaningful as member delight. Immaterial as revenue, decisive as neither. Which is exactly the right size for a configuration ticket and exactly the wrong size for anything more ambitious. The sizing is the strategic conclusion, and writing it down now prevents the thread from being inflated later into the entry argument it cannot support. Score the corridor question as the doctrine requires. Inbound to Asia American demand, enormous, unmonetizable, 0. Member outbound American travel, real, already served, optimized by the June retreat. Destination earn, a configuration ticket inside the existing Visa relationship, worth pursuing quietly. Total American corridor value requiring entry, nothing. Total requiring the existing infrastructure, already booked. The corridor doctrine's verdict matches the records. America needs no HeyMax presence to be exactly as valuable to HeyMax as it is ever going to be. Which leaves one analytical debt before the reception and opportunity chapters. Why did the American programs price themselves off HeyMax's shelf? The wholesale wall measured properly from the incumbent's own filings, because it is the volume's hardest economic fact, and its most permanent one. Chapter 12, The Wholesale Wall. The Economics chapter. And in this volume, it is a wall survey rather than an entry model, because the decisive American arithmetic is not about what HeyMax could earn there. It is about what American loyalty currency costs. The answer, drawn from the incumbent's own filings, explains both the June retreat and the permanent shape of HeyMax's American relations. The benchmark set, assembled in this series' product volume from primary documents, restated here as the wall's measurements. United's mileage plus financing deck, the disclosure filed when the airline mortgaged its program, shows partners buying miles at an illustrative 2 US cents each. The blended rate across all third-party sales derives to between 1.37 and 1.47 cents. American Airlines, blended wholesale derives to between 1.79 and 1.95 cents, and its retail buy miles pricing sits at 3.5 cents, the number that killed cash for miles. Delta, $8.2 billion of Amex remuneration against the miles issued to the bank, implies a comparable band. The pattern across the majors is consistent. American program currency wholesales at roughly 1.5 to 2+ US cents per mile. Why so high? Because the marginal buyer is a bank recycling 2% interchange, bidding against other banks for co-brand exclusivity. Airlines price to the richest buyer in the room. And the richest buyers in the room are the richest buyers on Earth. Now HeyMax's side of the ledger. The funding ceiling this series has carried since the partnership's volume. A max miles sustainable cost sits near 1.8 Singapore cents, roughly 1.35 US cents. That is the level at which commission margins fund issuance and the Fly Anywhere backstop stays solvent. Put the two numbers side by side and the wall is visible in one line. American miles wholesale above HeyMax's total funding ceiling, before any margin, before any operating cost, before any member value. A one-to-one transfer from Max Miles into United or American at wholesale rates would lose money on every conversion. Not campaign month money, structural money. And the retail version, cash for miles actual mechanism, lost nearly double. The June 2026 removal of the entire American tier was not housekeeping. It was the wall asserting itself. HeyMax kept American partners on the shelf exactly as long as the losses stayed small enough to call marketing, and not one day longer. Why is the wall permanent rather than cyclical? The question matters because the temptation to wait it out will recur. American mile prices are set by interchange-funded bank demand, Chapter 2's pool, bidding through Chapter 3's currencies for Chapter 1's programs. For American wholesale prices to fall inside HeyMax's ceiling, the bank bid would have to collapse. And that is precisely the Credit Card Competition Act scenario, which devastates the demand side of any American strategy at the same moment it lowers the wall. Run every state of the world. Rich Interchange America prices its miles beyond HeyMax's reach. Poor Interchange America has no rewards market worth entering. There is no sequence of events in which American program currency becomes affordable to a commission-funded Asian platform while remaining worth buying. A worked example makes the wall concrete because spoken arithmetic deserves a scene. Suppose HeyMax ignored this chapter and restored United at 1-to-1. A member converts 50,000 max miles, enough for a Trans-Pacific Economy Award. HeyMax must now buy 50,000 mileage plus miles. At the blended wholesale floor, call it 1.4 US cents, the purchase costs $700 US, roughly 940 Singapore dollars. The 50,000 max miles the member surrendered were funded, at the ceiling, by about 900 Singapore dollars of accumulated commission margin, the entire earn history that minted them. The conversion consumes 100% of the currency's lifetime funding, and then some, before HeyMax pays a single salary. And that is the floor price, assuming HeyMax could negotiate rates reserved for billion-dollar bank contracts. The realistic small partner rate sits closer to 2 cents, turning every such transfer into a 40% loss on fully loaded funding. Multiply by a community of optimizers who convert precisely when value peaks, and the shelf becomes a machine for converting HeyMax's margin into United's revenue. That is what the wall means in operational terms. Not that American partners are expensive, but that offering them at par is indistinguishable from donating the company to its members one transfer at a time. But the wall has a converse, and the converse is the volume's one commercial insight pointing the other way across the Pacific. If American currency is unaffordable to Asia, Asian currency is a bargain to America. The Asian programs on HeyMax's shelf wholesale their miles at rates consistent with HeyMax's ceiling. That is why they are on the shelf. Which means the American platforms racing to add Asian partners, Built and Rove at JAL, the banks eyeing the same gap, are buying inventory priced a third to a half below their home benchmarks. To American buyers, Asian miles are the cheap, high-value redemption inventory. To Asian buyers, American miles are unaffordable prestige. That asymmetry drives everything in the remaining chapters. The one-way flow of American challengers into Asian programs, the threats. The theoretical suppliers gate for HeyMax's treaty rack, the opportunities. And the reason the two hemispheres rewards markets will keep interpenetrating in exactly one direction, whatever anyone in Singapore or New York decides. The wall also explains a pattern this series noticed without fully pricing across 4 volumes, why HeyMax's roster is shaped the way it is, globally. Look at the shelf's geography with wholesale prices in mind. Asian and Middle Eastern long-tail carriers, cheap wholesale on the shelf. European access through Flying Blue, one door, negotiated once, at SkyTeam's continental pricing rather than per carrier premiums. The American majors, priced out entirely. The Gulf Premium Tier, Emirates Etihad, priced out with them, which Chapter 2 of the partnership's volume documented dying in the same June pruning. The roster is not a curation of brands members love. It is a map of global wholesale mile prices, drawn at the 1.35 cent contour line. Everything below the line is signable. Everything above it is marketing debt. Once seen, the contour explains past decisions, why EVA before Qantas, why Vietnam Airlines before United, and predicts future ones. Every roster addition this series will ever cover can be checked against a single question. Does this program's wholesale price clear the line? The wall is not just America's story. It is the invisible cartographer of HeyMax's entire redemption map. The wall measured American program miles at 1.5 to 2+ US cents wholesale against a 1.35 cent ceiling, held in place by the world's deepest interchange pool, permanent in every scenario. HeyMax's American shelf is closed by arithmetic that no strategy can negotiate with. What a foreign entrant would face in the court of American opinion is almost academic after that. But the series method requires the reception chapter, and the American reception machine is instructive enough to earn it. Chapter 13, How America Would Receive It. The reception chapter, run as method even where entry is closed. Because the American reception machine is the largest in the world, its behavior toward newcomers is freshly documented. Rove and Built both crossed it recently, and its structure is a preview of where every Asian points community is heading. Read this chapter for what it teaches about receptions generally. The machine's Asian counterparts are becoming it, 1 year at a time. The machine's structure dwarfs every counterpart this series has profiled. At the top, the points guy, not a blog but a newsroom, corporately owned, whose monthly valuations table functions as the industry's price index. Around it, view from the wing, 1 mile at a time, frequent miler, doctor of credit, professional publications with staffs, advertising markets, and affiliate economics built on card referrals worth hundreds of dollars per approved application. Beneath them, FlyerTalk's quarter-century of archives, Reddit communities counting millions of members, the YouTube tier, the paid newsletters, the award-booking consultancies. Japan's machine, this series concluded, is a press corps. America's is an industry with its own conferences, its own valuation methodology, and its own conflict structure. That conflict structure is the load-bearing difference. American points media is referral-funded. The dominant outlets earn primarily from credit card applications. Their editorial gravity therefore bends toward the bank products that pay, the welcome bonus meta, the annual fee justification genre, the transfer partner news cycle that keeps premium cards feeling alive. This is neither corruption nor secret. The disclosure lines are standard. It is an economic architecture, and its consequence for newcomers is structural. A currency without referral economics fights for attention against voices paid to celebrate its competitors. How does the machine process newcomers? The Fresh Case files answer precisely. Rove's April 2025 launch drew immediate, thorough, skeptical but fair coverage across every major outlet. Mechanics explained. Earn rates stress-tested. The no-card angle taken seriously. The durability question, can a startup fund a mile? Asked in print within days. Bilt's longer arc shows the amplification power. Years of sustained, largely admiring coverage built the brand into the community's darling. And when Bilt repriced elements of its program, the same machine delivered criticism at equal industrial scale. The machine is neither hostile nor kind. It is thorough, fast, permanently archived, and commercially entangled with the incumbents. What it would do to a HeyMax entry is therefore predictable to the paragraph. Day 1, mechanics coverage, accurate and complete, the craft is genuinely excellent. Week 1, the valuation question, what is a max mile worth in the points guy's sense? The durability question, a Singapore startup, 30 people, what happens to my balance? And the comparison table against Rove, Bilt, and the free bank rosters, in which the fifth best version of itself arithmetic from Chapter 3 appears as a graphic. Month 1, the cash for miles history surfaces, the machine's archival depth guarantees it, framed as precedent for partner list instability. The coverage would be fair, professional, and terminal. Because fairness is exactly what a structurally outmatched proposition cannot survive. The Japanese machine would have audited HeyMax against the incumbent's weaknesses, where HeyMax wins. The American machine would audit it against the incumbent's strengths. And the strengths are the whole market. One episode from the machine's recent history illustrates its power over currencies better than any structural description. When Bilt renegotiated its card economics and adjusted parts of its program, the coverage cycle ran for weeks, valuation implications modeled, alternative strategies published, member decision trees drawn, and the program's public standing moved measurably with the coverage. The machine did not report the change. It priced it publicly the way equity analysts price a guidance cut. Now imagine the same machine processing a young foreign currency's first stumble, a partner devaluation, a transfer delay, a cash for miles style pruning. The coverage would be identical in craft and catastrophic in effect, because a currency with no accumulated trust has no cushion against professional pricing. HeyMax's home communities extended it years of goodwill through its early stumbles, the 14-month transfer suspension, the Accor move, because the relationship predated the professionalization. The American machine offers no such courtship period. It prices from day 1, in public, forever. Entering its coverage universe voluntarily, with a structurally weaker product, is choosing to be marked to market by the world's most efficient pricing desk while holding the world's thinnest book. The reception chapter's real yield is the general lesson, transportable home. The American machine is the mature end state of points media everywhere. Professionalization, referral entanglement, price index authority. The Mile Lion tier in Singapore and the Ricumera press in Japan are earlier points on the same curve. 3 lessons follow. First, HeyMax's standing in its home communities, earned before those machines professionalized, is an appreciating asset. Later entrants must buy equivalent standing at referral rates. Defend it, and never monetize it so hard that advocates convert into vendors. Second, valuation tables are coming to Asia. Community-published max mile valuations already circulate. A currency's index value becomes self-fulfilling, and the treaty tier rate discipline this series keeps praising is, among its other virtues, index management. Third, the American community's loudest recurring drama, devaluations without notice, from dynamic pricing to COBRA and NERFs, has trained a global generation to treat loyalty currencies as depreciating assets held briefly. Earn fast, burn fast. That behavioral climate structurally favors HeyMax's model, frequent earn, liquid transfer, no hoarding incentive, over the hoard and hope programs it competes with. The community that has been burned most points most clearly at the design that wins. Reception, fair, fast, fatal, and instructive mainly as a mirror. The audits are done. What remains is the honest accounting of what America is still worth to HeyMax, and the threats already moving through the one-way glass. Chapter 14, Opportunities Counted Small. The bull chapter, and in this volume the discipline is compression. After 9 chapters of closed layers, whatever survives must be counted at its honest size, which is small. 4 opportunities survive the audit. None requires entry, ranked, priced, and bounded. First and largest, the supplier's gate, wholesale Asian program access for American platforms. Assemble the asymmetry the earlier chapters built. American transferable currencies are Asia-thin. Their members' aspirational redemptions increasingly run through Asian award charts. Asian miles wholesale below American benchmarks, a third to a half cheaper, and the American challengers are racing to sign the shelf HeyMax already holds. The opportunity, sell that access. Concretely, a partnership in which an American platform's members transfer into Max Miles as a bridge currency, reaching HeyMax's 21-program Asian rack through one integration instead of 6 bilateral treaties. Or a co-marketing arrangement in which HeyMax's treaty relationships anchor an American partner's Asian expansion, in exchange for wholesale mile revenue. Now price it honestly, because the gate is narrower than the strategy deck version. The airlines can sell direct. JAL's 2026 promiscuity proves they will to anyone with a check. HeyMax's bridge is worth paying for in exactly 2 cases. Where it aggregates the long tail, the Vietnam Airlines and Garuda tier that no American platform will ever integrate bilaterally, and where it accelerates time to shelf for a challenger racing a rival. That is a real but modest business-to-business product. Mid-6 to low 7 figures of annual wholesale revenue in the plausible case, not a strategic pillar. And it carries a cost the threat chapter names. Every wholesale deal arms the same American challengers already crowding HeyMax's award space. The rule, pursue reactively, quote when asked, never pitch first. Design the gate's honest version in 1 paragraph so the reactive posture has substance behind it. The buyer profile, an American platform, a challenger currency, a card program, conceivably a bank roster team, wanting Southeast Asian redemption breadth without 6 bilateral negotiations. The product, transfer connectivity into Max Miles at a governed wholesale rate, with the buyer's members reaching the full Asian tail through 1 integration. The pricing logic, HeyMax buys tail program miles at rates inside its ceiling, sells access at a spread that undercuts what the buyer's alternative, bilateral deals at small partner rates plus integration costs per program, would cost them. The contractual red lines, pre-drawn, no exclusivity on any treaty partner. No co-branding that implies HeyMax endorsement of the buyer in Asian markets. Rate governance both directions. And a termination path that strands no member balances, the lesson of every partnership autopsy this series has performed. Structured that way, the gate monetizes the least strategic slice of the rack, the long tail nobody else will integrate, while the crown treaties stay untouched. Any buyer who wants more than that wants the map, and the map is not for sale. Second, destination earn. carried from the corridor chapter. American in-country earn for HeyMax's traveling members through the Visa card-linked layer, a configuration extension of the existing network relationship, not an American operation. A member spending 2 weeks in California earns on the ground the way they earn at home, worth a product ticket. Generalizes to every destination, requires zero American presence. And bound the gate's downside explicitly, because the reactive rule needs its reason on the record. The worst case of an eager wholesale posture. HeyMax courts an American challenger, offers attractive bridge terms, and the challenger uses the arrangement as a scouting deployment. Learning the Asian tales transfer volumes, member behavior, and rate tolerances through HeyMax's own pipes, then converting that intelligence into bilateral deals that cut HeyMax out at renewal. The pattern has a name in platform economics, disintermediation by apprenticeship, and this series has already watched a version of it. The Atom partnership taught that a counterparty controlling the customer relationship can repurpose a partnership's learnings unilaterally. The reactive posture prices this risk correctly. Inbound interest means the buyer has already decided bilateral integration is too expensive. The apprenticeship risk is lower because the alternative was already rejected. Outbound courtship means HeyMax subsidizes the buyer's education. Same product, opposite selection effects. Quote when asked, never pitch. The rule is not caution for its own sake. It is adverse selection management. Third, the mirror as research. Free, permanent, and genuinely valuable. America runs the future of every mechanism HeyMax operates, at scale in public filings. Built's recurring spend wedge, the rent insight maps to Asian rent, to school fees, to the payment categories no Asian platform has claimed. The airlines portal and status weld, elite credit on shopping, a retention mechanic HeyMax's treaty partners could adopt with HeyMax as the operator. The Rakuten-owned cashier points toggle, validation for the coalition pricing this series' partnership's volume proposed. The securitization endgame, programs as collateral, the horizon where a well-governed currencies balance sheet eventually pays. The product volume mined American filings once for benchmarks. The standing version of that practice, reading American loyalty as the almanac of what arrives in Asia 3 years later, costs nothing, and it has already paid this series repeatedly. Fourth, speculative listed for completeness, the legislative hedge. If Washington ever guts the interchange pool, American program miles cheapen, the bank bid dies, and the wholesale wall lowers. A shrunken American rewards market becomes, for the first time, priceable from Asia. American partners on the shelf at sustainable ratios. American platforms hungrier for the commission-funded expertise that Asia's leaner markets forced HeyMax to master. This is not a plan. It is a contingency bookmark, with a legislative trigger observable years in advance. And record what did not survive the count, so the register is honest. American consumer entry in any form, chapters 1 through 9. The diaspora niche, a marketing segment for incumbents, not a beachhead. The inbound to Asia corridor, real demand, other people's toll booths. Partnership with the American Bank Currencies, the purest no-deficit counterparties this series has ever scored. And any revival of American programs on the redemption shelf, the wall is permanent. 4 survivors, a narrow gate, a product ticket, a free almanac, a bookmark, total strategic weight, a few % of the attention this volume spent understanding why everything else is closed, and that ratio is correct. In mirror markets, the understanding is the yield. The threats, by contrast, deserve full weight, because they are not hypothetical, they are already moving. Chapter 15, The One-Way Mirror. The Threats chapter. And for once, the threats do not require a hypothetical entry to bite. Every threat in this chapter operates on HeyMax at home, projected across the Pacific by the one-way permeability the record chapter named. 4 threats, priced by proximity. The first and nearest, the challengers in HeyMax's award space. Built and Rove joined JAL Mileage Bank in 2026. The same program HeyMax treaty signed. The same award inventory, this series Japan volume documented thinning under feeder demand. The mechanism is competitive in the most direct possible sense. An American member's JAL award booking consumes seats HeyMax's members wanted, and the American currencies bring deeper-pocketed members to the same charts, Bilt's 2.2 cent points, American premium card spending power. Now extrapolate the pattern. The Asian shelf race continuing, program by program. Within 2 years, the American challengers plausibly hold Cathay, EVA, and pieces of the Southeast Asian tail, converting HeyMax's differentiated treaty rack into shared infrastructure, crowded by American demand. HeyMax cannot block the airlines from selling. JAL's promiscuity is policy. It cannot outbid American wholesale budgets. It can respond only on the dimensions the Americans cannot import: local earned density, community standing, and the coalition lattice of the partnership's volume. Probability: high and already observed. Severity: erosion of award availability, the quiet devaluation members feel before any rate changes, and erosion of the only path to Asia positioning, wherever the challengers land. The second, the model export in reverse. Rove's existence proves the universal mile playbook is culturally portable. Rove's funding proves American venture capital will finance it, and nothing but priorities keeps Rove, or a successor with the same cap table, from running the playbook into Asia, where the markets are smaller but the wholesale prices are affordable, and where the incumbent is 1/30th of their potential capitalization. The partnership's volumes revelat warning generalizes here. The threat to HeyMax's home markets is not Asian imitation, it is American arrival. The American players' home economics train them for exactly the commission-funded, no-card model that works in Asia, and their home market saturation pushes them outward, the same pressure that once pushed HeyMax's model out of Singapore. Probability: moderate on a 3-year horizon. Severity: existential if executed well. Which is why the home coalition deepening, the partnership's volume's entire program, doubles as the national defense. Price the first threat's defense concretely, because respond at home needs operational content. What the American challengers cannot import, whatever their budgets: the earned density, 800 Singapore merchants, the U conversion, the octopus rail, the daily life coalition that makes max miles a habit rather than a transfer hop. The community standing, the pre-professional trust this volume keeps returning to, which referral dollars cannot purchase retroactively. And the local operational surface, pay now payouts, the Visa card layer, the lattice of fintech deals, each one a bilateral contract with a counterparty the Americans have never met. What they can import: redemption access, wholesale budgets, and brand glamour. The defensive arithmetic follows directly. A Singaporean member choosing between HeyMax and a hypothetical Rovasia holds. Identical airline access on the margin, the shelf converges as airlines sell to everyone, but earned density, payout rails, and community trust only on one side. The battle, if it comes, is decided by everything except the transfer roster, which is precisely why the partnership's volumes coalition program, groceries, transit, telcos, bills, yield, is not growth strategy. It is the moat being poured before the siege engine arrives. The third, legislative contagion. If Washington restructures interchange, the shock does not stay American. The co-brand economics of every airline HeyMax partners with include American cardholder bases. Global banks recalibrate rewards budgets globally after home market shocks. And regulatory fashions in payments travel, this series has watched the same movie start in 4 jurisdictions. Singapore's uncapped pool and Hong Kong's rich interchange are the quiet subsidies under HeyMax's entire ecosystem. Japan's trade ministry is already circling. Probability of interchange compression somewhere in HeyMax's footprint within 5 years. Better than even. Severity: the partnership's volumes answer stands, the revenue lines that survive are partner-funded and wholesale, which is where HeyMax's mix is already migrating. The threat is real. The hedge is the current strategy, executed faster. The fourth, structural, the valuation shadow. American loyalty defines how global capital prices the category. The multiples this series derived, Points.com at 7.6 times gross profit, the program's securitized billions, are the comparables any HeyMax fundraise or exit trades against. A legislative rewards recession in America, a built stumble, a Rove flameout, any of them reprices the category in every boardroom, cheapening HeyMax's next round through no fault of its own. And the converse has been true too. The challenger's rumored multi-billion valuations have been the category's tailwind. HeyMax's capital narrative is denominated, partly, in American sentiment, whether it likes it or not. Probability, certain in both directions permanently. Severity, financing cycle dependent, worth one line in every board deck, no more. One secondary vector completes the threat register, filed under the second threat because it shares the mechanism: acquisition. The likeliest form of American arrival in Asia is not an organic Rove launch. It is an American player buying an Asian platform, importing capital and brand into an existing local operation overnight. The candidates for acquisition are exactly the regional names this series has profiled: the cashback operators, the smaller rewards apps, and, in the scenario worth naming plainly, HeyMax itself. An American challenger or bank currency acquiring HeyMax would be the one-way mirror completing its logic. The Asian treaty rack, the coalition lattice, and the community standing, purchased whole at a Series B price that rounds to nothing against American loyalty budgets. Whether that scenario is a threat or an exit depends entirely on whose chair one sits in. This series analyzes, it does not advise shareholders, but the strategic consequence is neutral and worth recording. Every quarter of coalition deepening raises the price of that outcome, in both senses. The defense against being bought cheap and the path to being bought dear are the same execution. The pattern across the four: America threatens HeyMax not as a market but as a weather system. Its challengers migrate west. Its regulations export. Its valuations set the climate. None of it is answerable in America. All of it is answerable at home through coalition depth, treaty conduct, and funding discipline. The mirror market's threats are, on inspection, instructions to execute the existing strategy faster. That instruction repeats once more in the remaining chapters: the people who would have judged the entry, the partners who never needed one, and the plan that costs 6 analyst days a year. Chapter 16, the machine that prices everything. The people chapter in this series profiles the community that would make or break an entry. America's points community cannot make or break a HeyMax entry, there will be none. So this chapter reads it for what it actually is to this analysis: the largest concentration of loyalty, expertise on Earth. The community whose behavior sets the patterns HeyMax's home communities follow 3 years later. And an economics lesson in what happens to points media when it grows up. The scale calibrated against the series' prior communities. Japan's Rakuten-owned Press, a professionalized hobbyist ecosystem, the reception referee of that volume. Singapore's Mile Lion Tier, a small professional media with outsized community authority. America's Machine, an industry. The Points Guy operates as a newsroom under corporate ownership, its monthly valuation tables treated as price indices across the whole hobby. FlyerTalk carries a quarter-century of archives. The Reddit communities count members in the millions. Around them, award search startups with subscription bases, conferences, courses, consultancies. Points literacy in America is not a subculture. It is a consumer finance vertical with its own economy. Measured by portal registrations and transferable currency holders, its participants number in the tens of millions. The structural feature that matters analytically: American points media is referral funded, and the funding shapes the discourse. The dominant outlets earn primarily from credit card applications, hundreds of dollars per approved premium card. Their editorial gravity therefore bends toward the products that pay. The welcome bonus meta, the annual fee justification genre. The transfer partner news cycle that keeps premium cards feeling alive. This is disclosed and legal. It is also an architecture with consequences. 3 of those consequences travel to Asia, and they are the chapter's real content. First, currencies without referral economics fight uphill for attention. A Rove, or a hypothetical foreign entrant gets one round of organic novelty coverage. Sustained coverage requires an affiliate program because sustained coverage is what affiliate programs buy. The lesson for HeyMax at home: its standing in the Singapore and Japanese communities was earned before those machines professionalized. That standing is an appreciating asset. Later entrants must buy the equivalent at referral rates. Defend it, and never monetize it so hard that advocates convert into vendors. The American machine shows exactly what that conversion looks like at the end state. Second, valuation tables become self-fulfilling prices. The points guy's 2.2 cents for built is not just journalism, it is the number built negotiates with, fundraises on, and defends. Community-published max mile valuations already circulate in Singapore. As Asia's machines mature, a currency's index value will become its public price. The treaty tier rate discipline this series keeps praising, the one-to-one that never moves, is, among its other virtues, index management. A currency whose flagship rate has never changed gives the table nothing to downgrade. Third, the American community's loudest recurring drama has trained the world's behavior. Devaluations without notice, from dynamic award pricing to co-brand nerfs, are American loyalty's defining scandal genre, running for a decade. The generation of consumers it trained, globally, treats loyalty currencies as depreciating assets to be held briefly. Earn fast, burn fast. Never hoard. The Japan volume found the same conclusion taught by fuel surcharges. And here is the strategic point: that behavioral climate structurally favors HeyMax's model. Frequent earn, liquid transfer, no hoarding incentive, 21 exits. The programs that suffer in the burn-fast era are the hoard and hope giants. The platform designed for velocity wins the era its rivals' conduct created. America, having burned its consumers most thoroughly, points most clearly at the design that wins. A brief history of how the machine got this way completes the picture, because the trajectory is the forecast for Asia. The American points community began exactly as Asia's did. Hobbyist forums, personal blogs, shared spreadsheets, an ethos of collective discovery. Flyer talk in the late 90s was Pipampu, was the early Rikumera boards, was the Singapore forums this series has quoted. The professionalization arrived in stages. First, the blogs found affiliate revenue. Then media companies bought the biggest. The Points Guys acquisition marked the moment the hobby became an asset class. Then the tooling startups arrived, and the consultancies, and the conference circuit. Each stage made the community richer in craft and thinner in amateur spirit, until the ecosystem center of gravity moved from discovery to distribution, from finding the trick to selling the card. None of this was corruption. It was economics doing what economics does to any attention pool worth monetizing. The forecast for HeyMax's home communities is the same sequence with a lag. The acquisitions will come, the referral economics will deepen, the amateur voices will professionalize or fade. The window in which community standing can be EARNED rather than bought is the window before that sequence completes. In America, it closed around 2015. In Singapore and Japan, it is closing now. That timing is worth more to HeyMax's strategy than any single fact in this volume. So no reception verdict, but 3 exports. Defend the pre-professional community standing while it still exists. Manage the coming valuation indices through rate discipline. And build for the burn-fast behavior that America's dramas trained into the global consumer. One export deserves a caution label before the ledger chapter. The temptation, watching the American machine's referral economics, is to conclude that HeyMax should build the same engine at home, become the referral platform, monetize the community standing, capture the card application bounties its own content generates. The partnership's volume priced card bounties as legitimate floor revenue, and they are. The caution is about degree and identity. The American outlets that monetized hardest are the ones whose recommendations the community now systematically discounts. The valuation tables get read, but the card advice gets cross-checked against unmonetized voices because everyone knows what funds the enthusiasm. An outlet can be an authority or a storefront. The American record shows the drift from one to the other is one-directional and reputation-priced. HeyMax is not an outlet, but its app, its content estate, and its community presence face the same drift risk in miniature. The standing that lets a platform's rate table be trusted is the same standing a referral engine spends. The American lesson is not do not monetize. It is meter the spend because the asset does not refill. The machine that would have priced a HeyMax entry to death is, read from a safe distance, the best free consultant the company has. The partner's ledger comes next. It is 1 page long and empty, and its emptiness is the most instructive ledger this series has ever drawn. Chapter 17, The Empty Ledger. The partnership ledger, run against America with the series' standard categories: held, reachable, closed, and recorded honestly. This is the emptiest ledger in 12 volumes. Its emptiness is itself the strategic finding. Held, nothing, by design. No American program sits on the transfer shelf. The June retreat cleared the tier. No American operating partnership exists. The American brands on the earn floor are commodity affiliate relationships, indistinguishable from any global platforms. The one held asset with an American dimension is indirect. The Visa relationship, a global network contract whose American homeland gives it its standards and its roadmap. The destination earn thread from the corridor chapter is the only American value it leaves unclaimed. Reachable, thinly, the challenger tier. As counterparties, not as markets, Rove and Built are the only American entities with a structural reason to talk to HeyMax, the Asia shelf logic of the opportunities chapter. Bridge access to the treaty racks long tail, co-marketed corridor products. Or, in the version with real money, Wholesale Max Miles supply as their Southeast Asian redemption inventory. The ledger records the tension honestly. These are the same names in the threat register. Any deal arms them with shelf familiarity that accelerates their westward expansion. The grammar's verdict: reachable, reactive only, rate governed if ever, and never exclusive. Sell inventory, never sell the map. Reachable in theory, refused in practice. The infrastructure tier. Cartera would white label a portal tomorrow. The affiliate networks would onboard an American merchant floor in a quarter. The award search startups would integrate Max Miles into their tools on request. All of it is plumbing for an entry this volume forbids. The refusal is the strategy. Closed and worth recording why, class by class, because the reasons define the market. The Bank Currencies, no deficit. The purest no-deficit counterparties in the series' history. They own the pool, the members, and the rosters. A Singapore startup offers them nothing but competition for attention. The airline programs, sellers, not partners. They will happily take anyone's money for miles at the Wholesale Wall's unaffordable rates. A partnership with United is a purchase order with a logo on it. The cashback and portal giants. Rakuten twice over, PayPal, Capital One, empires for whom the category is a feature of something larger. The tools, competitors at the feature level. The ledger's closed section is, in effect, the entire American market, closed not by hostility, by self-sufficiency. And that is the mirror of the founding insight this series' partnerships volume formalized. HeyMax wins where counterparties have deficits, where someone needs a travel currency they cannot mint themselves. America's loyalty economy is the one place on Earth with no such deficit anywhere in the system. Every institution that could want a mile mints one. Every institution that could want a portal runs one. Every gap that opened, domestic capital closed within a funding cycle. One hypothetical tests the ledger's finality better than any category walk. Suppose an American giant came to HeyMax, not HeyMax knocking, the reverse. A bank currency wanting a Singapore presence for its card members abroad. An airline program wanting Southeast Asian earned distribution. Rakuten wanting an Asian portal partner outside Japan. Would the ledger open? Run each through the grammar. The bank wants destination services for its members, a travel concierge contract, not a partnership. HeyMax would be a vendor, priced as a vendor, replaceable as a vendor. The airline wants earned distribution, which the affiliate networks already sell it cheaper. Rakuten wants nothing outside Japan it cannot build. Its Cartera arm is the build. In every inbound scenario, the American giant's need is a service, not a deficit, fillable by contract, carrying no obligation, conferring no durability. That is the deepest sense in which the ledger is empty. Even the flattering versions of American interest, the ones where they call first, produce vendor relationships rather than partnerships. The one exception remains the one the Opportunities chapter priced, the challengers buying tail access, and it survives precisely because the challengers, unlike the giants, have a genuine structural gap and no cheaper way to fill it. The anchor doctrine's final application, then, reads as a null result with a moral. Anchors decide entries. America offers no anchor because nothing in America needs a Singapore rewards platform to succeed. The doctrine, applied honestly, forbids the entry regardless of every other consideration: the wall, the machine, the media. Because with no anchor, there is nothing to build on even if everything else were free. The moral is the doctrine's converse, stated once for the series' permanent record. HeyMax's entire existence depends on operating where the anchor logic runs, where airlines need feeders, Japan, where coalitions need travel exits, the lattice, where challengers need differentiation, the frontier stack. The American ledger's emptiness is the cleanest proof the series has produced that HeyMax is a creature of deficit markets, and a standing instruction: go where the deficits are. All of the remaining growth in this company's story lives on that one sentence. A dating note belongs in the ledger before it closes, because ledgers age and this one will be quoted. The emptiness recorded here is a photograph of August 2026, and two entries could plausibly move within the decade. The challenger tier's reachability rises if either Rove or Built stumbles into a capital crunch. A distressed challenger needing Asian redemption inventory, fast, becomes a genuine wholesale customer at terms favoring the supplier. And distressed sales are when reactive postures pay best. And the infrastructure tier's refusal weakens in exactly one scenario. If HeyMax's own wholesale business, the Max Miles as a Service thread the partnership's volume mapped, ever matures into a real product line, Cartera's client model stops being a cautionary tale and becomes a peer comparable, worth studying operationally rather than avoiding categorically. Neither movement changes the consumer verdict. Both change who might someday appear across a negotiating table. The ledger should be rephotographed whenever a trigger fires, and its empty sections re-verified rather than assumed, because the one error worse than entering a closed market is quoting a stale ledger to refuse an open door. One page, one null ledger, one moral. The plan follows, and in this volume, uniquely, the plan is mostly a list of things to keep not doing, executed for the price of a plane ticket. Chapter 18, Vigilance, Not Presence. The plan chapter. And for the first time in this series, the plan's core instruction is continuity. Keep the zero. What follows is the complete American program this volume recommends: 4 standing practices and 2 contingency triggers, executable by existing staff inside existing budgets, requiring no American entity, no American hire, and no American announcement. Ever. Practice 1, the watch. A standing quarterly review, 1 analyst day per quarter, tracking exactly 4 American developments, each mapped in this volume to a home market consequence. The Challenger's Asian Shelf Editions. Every Built or Rove partner announcement prices the erosion of the treaty RAC's differentiation and times the defense. The credit card competition acts legislative motion, committee votes, floor scheduling, the contagion clock. The Points Guy tier valuation tables, the index management input, and the earliest warning of category repricing. And the American program's wholesale price signals, co-brand renewals, buy-miles pricing, movements in the wall itself. 4 feeds, 1 page per quarter, circulated to whoever owns partnerships and treasury. That is the entire American operation. It is sufficient. Practice 2, the supplier's gate kept reactive. The wholesale angle is real enough to price and dangerous enough never to pitch. The practice: a standing internal term sheet, rate-governed, non-exclusive, weighted toward the long tail, held ready for inbound interest. With the decision rule pre-committed now, while no check is on the table. Sell inventory access where it monetizes the tail no American buyer would integrate bilaterally. Refuse anything that transfers relationship knowledge on the treaty tier. The JAL and Cathay relationships are the crown assets. No wholesale revenue prices their dilution. Quote when asked, never call first. Practice 3, the destination earn ticket. The corridor chapter's one product thread, American in-country, earn for traveling members, through the Visa card-linked layer, enters the product backlog as a configuration project inside the existing network relationship, sequenced whenever the Visa roadmap makes it cheap. Its value is member delight and generalization. The same switch serves Japan-bound members where the corridor volume is far larger. Its American character is incidental. Its cost is near zero. Practice 4, the almanac institutionalized. The Mirror's research becomes a habit. Every American filing season, one internal note answering a single question. What arrives in Asia in 3 years, and are we the ones bringing it? Built's recurring spend wedge alone justifies the practice, rent, school fees, the committed payment categories no Asian platform has claimed. The partnership's volumes frontier stack should absorb one American proven mechanic per year, translated for markets where it is still novel. A note on why the plan is written down at all, since its content is mostly inaction, because inaction decays without documentation. 3 years from now, the people who absorbed this volume's audit may have moved on. A new business development hire will discover that America is the biggest loyalty market on Earth and HeyMax has no strategy for it, and will draft one, energetically, from first principles, arriving at the diaspora pitch or the portal partnership or the retail revival idea, each of which this volume already priced and buried. The plan document exists to make the burial findable. Its 4 practices give the future enthusiast something legitimate to own: the watch, the gate, the ticket, the almanac, and its 2 triggers define the only conditions under which the question legitimately reopens. Institutional memory is the cheapest form of discipline, and this series has watched enough strategy relitigated from scratch, in its subjects and around them, to price a written no at many times its drafting cost. The 0 survived 3 years on instinct. The next 3 should not depend on instinct surviving staff turnover. Then the 2 triggers, pre-committed now, so future debates inherit conclusions instead of reopening them. Trigger 1. The Credit Card Competition Act passes in substantially its current form. This activates a 90-day review of the wholesale wall because American miles cheapen as the bank bid dies, and of home market interchange defense because the contagion hedge says accelerate partner-funded and wholesale revenue lines before the weather arrives. It does not activate entry planning. The analysis stands. Post-legislation America belongs to its own lean tier, Rakuten, the portals, Rove, not to a foreign arrival. Trigger 2, an American challenger enters a HeyMax home market. Rove or Built launching earn operations in Singapore, Hong Kong, or Japan. This activates the full competitive response this series' partnerships volume already wrote. Coalition lock-in, accelerated. Treaty tier conduct perfected. Community standing defended, with the American watch feeding the targeting. The response happens at home, with home assets on home ground, which is where the threat chapter located every real American danger in the first place. One operational detail rounds out the watch practice, where the 4 feeds actually come from because a watch nobody can run is a wish. The challenger's shelf editions, their own press pages and the loyalty media's partner news cycle, public, immediate, free. The legislative motion, the congressional record and the trade press covering the lobbying war, public, if noisy. The valuation tables, published monthly by the very outlets Chapter 16 profiled, the machine generously prices the category for anyone who reads it. The wholesale signals, the airlines' investor disclosures, co-brand renewal announcements, and buy miles promotional pricing, the same primary sources this series mined for the wall. Every feed is public. The watch requires no subscriptions beyond patience, no relationships beyond reading, and no headcount beyond the analyst day per quarter already budgeted. That is the deliberate design. An American strategy with zero standing costs survives budget reviews indefinitely, which is exactly what a permanent no requires. Plans die when they cost something in years when nothing happens. This one is priced for decades of nothing happening, punctuated, if the triggers fire, by 90 days of everything. The plan complete, 4 practices, 2 triggers, 0 presence, total cost, perhaps 6 analyst days a year and 1 product ticket. It is the cheapest plan this series has ever written, protecting against the largest competitors it has ever profiled. And that is the correct exchange rate for a mirror market. America is not somewhere HeyMax goes. It is something HeyMax watches, learns from, occasionally sells to, and otherwise leaves exactly alone. What remains is the negative space, the temptations that would break the plan, and the verdict. Chapter 19, The 5 American Temptations. The Prohibitions chapter, and in a closed market it carries unusual weight. Since the plan is to do almost nothing, the operative risks are the temptations to do something. 5 of them, each with its trigger scenario named, because prohibitions fail exactly when their temptations arrive wearing plausible clothes. Temptation 1, entering on the diaspora story. It arrives as a pitch deck, 24 million Asian Americans, the country's highest income demographic segment, underserved by generic programs. We already have the roster they want. The Gap chapter dismantled it. Serving the niche requires the full entry stack, the occupied merchant floor, the American payment rails, the American marketing budget, to reach a population the incumbent currencies already serve at 90% adequacy. The scenario to guard against is subtler than the deck. A partner dangling distribution, an Asian American bank, a remittance platform, a community super app proposing HeyMax as its rewards layer for our members. The grammar's answer is fixed. That is an American entry wearing a partner's coat, and the coat does not change the arithmetic. Temptation 2, reviving American redemption at retail. It recurs every time a member survey asks for United or Marriott back, and every time a buy-point sale makes the numbers briefly look survivable. The wall is permanent. American miles wholesale above the funding ceiling, and sales window arbitrage is cash for miles with extra steps, the mechanism HeyMax already buried once, at real cost, in public. The prohibition is absolute. No American program returns to the shelf except on governed wholesale terms below the ceiling, which no American program will ever offer, because the banks will always pay more. Temptation 3, selling the map for wholesale revenue. The supplier's gate has a corrupt version, the deal that transfers not inventory access but relationship access, introductions to JAL's partnership desk, co-signed treaty extensions, the playbook of who signs and how. An American challenger would pay handsomely for exactly that. And the check would arrive during some future funding winter, looking like salvation. The crown assets are the treaty relationships and the conduct record behind them. Wholesale deals sell miles, never provenance. Pre-commit the refusal now, while no check is on the table. That is what this chapter is for. Temptation 4, fighting the challengers in America. When Built or Rove's Asian expansion bites, the tempting counter is symmetric warfare. Contest their home turf, an American marketing splash, a partnership with their rivals, a bonus war at shared partners. Every version spends HeyMax's constrained resources on the opponent's deepest ground, against their referral-funded media machine. In the market, this entire volume closed. The asymmetric answer is the only answer. Defend in Asia, where the coalition, the community standing, and the earn density are HeyMax's and cannot be imported on any budget. The war, if it comes, is when at home or not at all. Temptation 5, letting the mirror set the roadmap. The subtlest one. American loyalty's glamour, the securitizations, the $200 referrals, the billion-dollar co-brands, pulls every rewards founder toward American-shaped ambitions. The co-brand card, the credit product, the referral monetized media arm. Each has an American proof. And each has an Asian trap this series has already documented: the issuer arbitrage closures, the buy now pay later graves, the community standing warning of the people chapter. The almanac practice reads America for mechanics that survive translation. Built's recurring spend wedge translates. The referral economy translates into exactly the conflict that would burn HeyMax's most defended asset. The mirror is a reference library, not a mood board. Notice who delivers each temptation, because the messenger is the tell. The diaspora pitch arrives from a well-meaning investor or a community super app's corporate development team. The retail revival arrives from HeyMax's own member surveys, the most sympathetic messenger of all, and no less wrong. The map sale arrives from a challenger's business development office, warm and flattering during a funding winter. The symmetric war arrives from competitive adrenaline after a bad quarter of award space news. The mirror roadmap arrives from a new executive who spent their career at an American issuer and knows how it is done. None of these messengers is malicious. Each carries a locally reasonable idea that fails only at the level of the whole audit, which is exactly why prohibition by principle beats evaluation case by case. A case-by-case process eventually approves one of them, because each case, viewed alone, is arguable. The written prohibition, anchored to this volume's 20 chapters of working, is the only mechanism that reliably outlasts the parade of reasonable messengers. That is what a closed market strategy actually consists of, not the absence of ideas, but the durable refusal of arguable ones. 5 temptations. 1 root. Every American temptation is a version of forgetting what made the zero correct, that HeyMax is a deficit market company, and America is the world's only no-deficit loyalty market. The company that stays home because it understands why home is where it wins will keep compounding. The one that visits America for any of the 5 reasons above will fund the lesson at market rates, in the most expensive classroom on earth. And since prohibitions are best remembered through their nearest miss, close with the one American temptation HeyMax already survived, because it is the strongest proof the list is not hypothetical. Cash for miles was an American temptation, acted on. The 17-partner tier existed because American brand names, United, Marriott, Emirates alongside them, made the partner list look world-class, and the retail arbitrage mechanism made the economics look temporarily deniable. The company ran that experiment for 2 years, absorbed structural losses on every premium conversion, and paid a real trust cost to unwind it in public. Every future American temptation will arrive with better slides than Cash for Miles had, and the June autopsy is the standing answer. The company has already purchased, at retail, one complete demonstration of what happens when American glamour meets the funding ceiling. The tuition is paid. The 5 prohibitions above are the receipt. Framing them as lessons already bought, rather than rules imposed, is what will make them hold in rooms where nobody remembers this volume. The verdict formalizes all of it. Chapter 20, Should HeyMax Enter the USA? 20 chapters, the verdict in the series' required form, the decision, the working, the falsifiers, and because this volume closes the series' 12th book, the doctrine it adds. The verdict: no, not now, not later, not partially, not through a partner's coat. The cleanest, most permanent no this series has issued. Cleaner than Korea's, which turned on a pool that legislation had drained and could theoretically refill. America's no turns on the opposite and stronger ground. The pool is the world's largest, and everything it waters is already grown. Walk the closed layers one final time, in one breath. Programs grossing $20 billion a year in miles sales, run as profit centers by the airlines that invented the category. 4 Bank Currencies giving away transferable rosters as free features of cards households already hold. Both challenger wedges, no card and recurring spend, claimed by funded domestic champions, one of them a feature-for-feature HeyMax analog with a head start in its own country. The portal layer, airline-owned, running on Rakuten plumbing. The Cashback Ocean, consolidated under empires. The tooling layer, venture-saturated, with better network coverage than HeyMax's own flagship. Beneath it all, the wholesale wall, American program miles priced by interchange-funded bank demand at 1.5 to 2+ US cents, permanently above the 1.35 cents HeyMax's commission-funded model can bear. In every regulatory scenario, including the ones that lower the wall by destroying the market. And over it all, the Credit Card Competition Act, the world's loudest demonstration that rewards pools are political artifacts, besieging this one at exactly the moment an entrant would need it stable. The working, compressed to the doctrine it proves. The series anchor rule, enter where a counterparty needs you, returns, for America, a null result. Nothing in the American loyalty economy has a deficit a Singapore rewards platform fills. HeyMax exists because Singapore's banks underserved transfer breadth, because Asian coalitions lacked travel exits, because JAL wanted feeders, because 7 Hong Kong virtual banks own no aspirational currency. America has no such vacancy because American capital fills its own gaps at American speed. Built and Rove are the proof. They claimed, in 4 years, the exact wedges a foreign entrant would have needed a decade to reach. What America is to HeyMax settled. A watch list, the challenger's Asian expansion, answered at home. A supplier's gate, Asian shelf wholesale, quoted reactively, Crown assets excluded. A product ticket, destination earned through the existing visa relationship. And an almanac, the public, audited preview of every mechanism, drama, and regulation that reaches Asia 3 years later. Total cost of the correct American strategy, a few analyst days a year. Total cost of any alternative, the education, at market rates, that this volume provided free. The falsifiers, on the record, each measurable. If the Credit Card Competition Act passes in substantially current form, and the Bank Currencies rosters visibly shrink within 2 years, the no-vacancy premise weakens at the bottom of the market. Rerun this analysis for the lean-tier survivor's world. If Rove or Built exits or collapses without successors claiming their wedges, the no-card niche reopens, and the reentry question belongs to whoever then holds the Asian treaty rack. If any American major's wholesale mile price falls durably below 1.3 US cents, never yet recorded in the industry's history, the wall breaches, and the shelf question reopens, partner by partner. And if the challengers do not materially expand their Asian rosters within 3 years, this volume's central threat was overpriced, and the watch should be downgraded. Falsification cuts both ways. And one paragraph on what the mirror showed that no other market could, because it is the volume's lasting analytical gift. Every prior market study examined HeyMax against incumbents playing different games, banks defending card books, super apps defending ecosystems, point sites defending engagement lattices. America is the only market where the incumbents play HeyMax's exact game, transferable currencies, shopping portals, wallet tools, at terminal scale, which makes it the only market that reveals the model's endgame. The endgame is visible in 3 American facts. Transferable currencies converge on free one-to-one transfers and compete on earned subsidies, meaning the roster stops differentiating and the funding source decides everything. Portals converge on white-label infrastructure serving whoever owns the members, meaning the operator layer commoditizes and the member relationship is the only durable asset. And communities converge on referral professionalization, meaning earned standing becomes purchasable, then priceless, in that order. Every one of those convergences is coming to Asia on a lag. HeyMax has perhaps 5 years of deficit market conditions left in its footprint before the American end state arrives locally. 5 years to convert treaty access into coalition habit, community standing into structural distribution, and commission margins into partner-funded resilience. The American mirror does not just say do not enter. It says this is what your markets become. Build accordingly at speed. The doctrine for the series: markets divide into deficit markets where HeyMax's model compounds and completed markets where it has no purchase. The test is a single question asked of the whole economy at once. Does anything here need a travel currency it cannot mint itself, Asia keeps answering yes, market by market, deficit by deficit. America answers no from every layer simultaneously. And the discipline to accept that answer, permanently, is worth more to HeyMax than any expansion this series has ever priced. The verdict's place in the series deserves a final calibration, because a no this clean risks reading as a wasted volume, and it is the opposite. The market studies in this series exist to allocate a scarce resource, the attention of a 30-person company, across a world of apparent opportunities. Every yes they issue commits years of that attention. Every no they issue refunds it. Korea's no refunded the attention that Japan's yes then spent. This volume's no is the largest refund in the series. It retires, permanently and with documented reasoning, the single most glamorous distraction available to any consumer company on Earth, the American market, and it does so before a dollar was spent learning the lesson experientially. The volumes that end in yes build businesses. The volumes that end in no protect them. A strategy shelf with 11 yeses would be a gambling record. The shelf as it stands, entries earned narrowly, refusals reasoned thoroughly, is what capital allocation looks like when it is done in public, and this volume is its sternest entry. One sentence for the shelf, beside 11 volumes of verdicts. America is the mirror in which HeyMax can finally see what it is, the company that goes where it is needed, and the mirror's gift is the confirmation that it is needed nowhere here. Research date, August 2026. Estimates labeled throughout, not affiliated with any company named. Nothing in this volume is financial advice. The next volume looks north.